This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
All right, I'm going to spend 1 billion points. What can I do for 1 billion points, Phil?
You can re-roll your roll.
Wait, that's it?
Yeah,
Weak
that's it.
sauce.
But I've been saving those points for like 10 years of this campaign, and Bob spends them every week for re-rolls.
Yeah, true. And they've saved my old man hide multiple times.
The economy says you can spend all your points at once for a re-roll.
Shit. I thought you could spend a point for a reroll and more for like cool narrative stuff.
Yeah, no. We nerfed that rule after Tony spent 1 million points to become the ruler of a nation.
Oh, that makes sense. I must have missed that week. But this week, it's the 379th episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast, and we're talking about economies and currencies. My name is Chris.
My name is Phil.
And I'm old man Logan.
Oh my, we are here. It is time for some Misdirected Markness.
It is.
Thank God, because before that would have been time for dinner, and that was
Dinner was terrible.
Dinner was terrible.
Dinner was so
Dinner
terrible that I
wasn't
got a donut.
terrible. Dinner just wasn't good.
No, it was terrible.
All right.
Dinner was not good. That's the first dud that we've had
In a long time.
in a long time.
Long time.
We've had a good stretch of kind of delicious dinners, and that one was a total dud.
But what did we do to make up for it?
Cider and donuts.
Cider and
Cider
donuts.
and donuts.
And not just any cider and donuts. We went right to the source in in the south towns of Buffalo.
Mayor Brothers.
Mayor Brothers. There is no better.
Yes.
And this is actually a really good cider. This
is really good cider.
very smooth, not too sugary. Like it's sweet. I mean, it's cider, but it's not overly sweet. It's good.
It's very tasty. I'm quite enjoying it.
We also have some Tim Hortons coffee. Once again, Tim Hortons Corporation. If you'd like to sponsor us, we are incredibly cheap. You could send us a couple of. You could send us just a couple of Tim Horton cards.
Yeah,
we'd
I
basically
mean,
be purchased.
We've been completely sponsoring you. I mean, like
Our
advertising you constantly.
Our product placement for you on this show is pretty much staunch. Like, we would even wear Tim Hortons shirts. I think for free coffee. I'm not
Probably.
above that. I would show myself for free coffee.
Would you?
For free coffee in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could totally understand and see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's not even.
Not even a thing, right? It's not even worth questioning.
That's right. That's not even worth questioning.
Yeah.
Bob with his yeah.
If you Canadians could put in a good word with
seriously.
Tim Hortons for us, that would be helpful.
We would love.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would
sponsorship.
write the Tim Hortons RPG, right? Assuming we got
Yeah,
credited.
man, would I write the Tim Hortons
no, assuming we got credited, and then we would credit all the artists too.
Correct.
Oh my
Wow.
God, that writes itself.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It would be a hockey RPG, right?
Of course.
Hockey and donuts.
Yeah.
I feel like it's weird though. A bunch of Americans writing the Tim Hortons role-playing game.
There have been worse.
live
There have been
right on
worse
the other
things.
side.
There have been worse things perpetrated
We
in
live
RPGs.
right on the other side of the ditch. We're honorary Canadians. I have a toque.
I've spent a lot of money in Canada.
I've watched a metric shit ton of hockey. I know the
Hockey Night in Canada. No
Hockey
less.
Night in Canada.
Yeah.
I know the Canadian national anthem as well as I know the Star Spangled Banner.
I have a Don Cherry-like suit.
Okay, now
I don't.
that we don't.
I
man.
really don't. I
You could
don't.
wear Tim Hortons colors, sing the Canadian national anthem, and drink coffee on the show. I would do
For
that
for free coffee. I
for
totally
free
would do
coffee
that.
every week. I would do it at the beginning of every show every week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, damn Skippy.
Yeah. All right, Tim Hortons. The ball is now in your court.
Time to step up to the plate, Timmy.
Oh man, I feel like it's a non-starter, but I wish that was a real thing. All right, so
Wouldn't
I
let's
don't think you step up to the plate if you're Tim Hortons.
let's
do you
get
go
between
up
the
to
pipes. Get between the pipes.
between the
That's right,
pipes. Get
between
ready
the
for the
pipes.
face-off.
Step up to the face-off side.
skate to center ice. Right. Okay. Anyways, one thing. Let's do that one thing that we like to do.
We like to do one thing.
One thing. I might be a little hyper tonight. I have no idea why.
I have no idea why. It could be
And
because
you
I'm
just ingested more sugar.
Good, because I've downcycled a bit.
I mean, you did downcycle a bit, but I've been like
Ooh, you got
rising.
chocolate frosting on yours.
I know. I've been rising
had
like
caramel on mine.
all day because I was really sick this past
Freezing.
weekend. So
Phrasing.
phrasing. Anyways, Phil, tell me about your one thing.
One thing we are restarting our DCC game on Thursday nights. So we had our good friend Jim, brother Jim, come out to our game, and we were kind of between games anyway. Like we had played Sprawl for a while. It was good, but like I don't know, group wasn't really. It really wasn't jiving with the group. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that game. That game's
No, nothing
great.
wrong with the game at all.
That game's great, and I would run it any time. But it just wasn't doing it for what that Thursday night group is kind of about. So I put a shit ton of games on the table. Like I just went and just grabbed a bunch of games and put them on the table and was like, here are things I'm interested in possibly running. And after a bit of discussion, we were like, let's just play DCC again. Like we didn't dislike DCC. We had switched because we did a little play testing. And yeah, so we're going to go back and do a funnel this week. Tomorrow, actually. We're going to do a funnel tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get some new level 1 characters. So I'm actually pretty excited. I picked a different funnel because we did the Sunless Sea before. Mm-hmm. So this one is another Goodman Games one called Hole in the Sky.
Yeah.
That looks pretty interesting. The premise is actually really good. So yeah, we're gonna get cranking on DCC. But I went back and started rereading the DCC rules, and I remembered like this is like my favorite D20 implementation. Like it's so good.
What makes it so good?
So the part I reread today is how they did away with all the feats in the game and replaced it with Mighty Deeds.
Ah.
Mighty Deeds.
And so Mighty Deeds is basically warriors get an extra die. And that die size increases as you go up in level.
Uh-huh.
But you basically just say the thing you want to do. Like, oh, I want to hit this guy and push him back through the portal. Right? So the push him back through the portal is the deeds part. And you roll your d20 plus your deeds die. And as long as you get a 3 or higher on the deeds die, then, and you successfully hit. You have to get a 3 or higher on the deeds die, and your hit has to actually land.
Uh-huh.
Then you get to do the thing.
That's cool.
And there are no, there's, the book gives you a bunch of suggestions for him, but it's like, don't limit yourself. Like, make up whatever you want. And they even tell you, like, if you're a warrior, make up some default ones that every time you roll, you don't even have to declare it. If you get a 3 on the deeds die, you do this thing, or 4 on the deeds die, you do this thing. So
That's pretty awesome.
yeah, I was like, that's a great way to get rid of all those feats and still make it interesting, because it makes warriors a lot more interesting than just, rock'em sock'em robot.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway.
When I punch it, you punch it, I punch it. You
Yeah,
punch it till
exactly.
the head pops off?
Exactly.
Pops up.
This way warriors can do
Boing.
all sorts of cool
Oh, wait,
maneuvers.
wrong sound effect. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm kind of in a rush because I got to get this game prepped and ready to run tomorrow.
I forgot it was tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're playing Wednesday.
It's a special holiday edition of.
We're getting into the part where Metatopia and Halloween screw things up.
Uh-huh.
So to avoid that, we're playing this Wednesday. Then we're skipping, I think it's 2 weeks, and then we're gonna play the 2 weeks right before Thanksgiving. Like we're just gonna make it happen. Like it's not gonna be on a set schedule. We're just gonna
do it.
We're just getting games in.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my one thing. Bob, apparently you're feeling very good.
Yeah. So 2 Fridays ago, I had a procedure.
In your
What? In the butt. Yeah.
in your
You know,
butt.
colonoscopy.
What? In the butt.
Yeah. They take the camera. They go look.
So
One
where's the
tiny
colonoscopy
polyp.
parody song?
Yeah. There you go. One tiny polyp was snipped. It is non-cancer type stuff. It was just a minor thingamajigger. I'm good for 5 years. Yay.
All right.
I like being good for 5 years. Last time it was 3 years. And
Yeah.
this time he stretched me out to 5. So I'm like, good. All right. Yay.
No colonoscopy for 5 years.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Don't use the word stretching out.
So
and
here's
colonoscopy
the
in the
question.
same,
Here's the bet to lay down. Will we still be podcasting
when he gets his next
when,
colonoscopy.
when Bob gets his next colonoscopy?
Man, if we are.
I will take bets in the chat room right now. That's for games.
What episode number would that be?
5 years from now?
Yeah, what is that?
Well,
60?
okay, assuming
Was it-
that we take off 4 episodes a year,
Sure.
that is 48 episodes. 48 times 5.
Okay.
What's that? 250 minus 10, 240.
Sure.
240 episodes from now. So 240, 378, 578, and 40 is what? 638? 618. Sorry, 618. That would be episode 618.
Yes.
throwing it out
I'll be joining the show from the machine.
Well then. Stream about killing all humans is what we'd be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we would just be, that would be like our third time through the topic list, right? By that time.
But we'd just be doing the same episode. The Bard episode.
That'll be the new Bard episode, yeah.
The Bard episode
Again.
again.
Yeah.
Bard episode Redux.
Yeah.
Tridux.
It would still be the cyberpunk rocker boy. Done.
Redux.
Anyway.
Yeah, probably. It would probably still be the Cyberpunk Rocker Boy.
What about you, Chris?
And what was my one thing? Oh yeah, we played Scum and Villainy last week, Wednesday.
Yeah.
It was really fun, Bob.
It was.
So I asked everybody to, before the game started, send me a thing that their character was afraid of, what their character's greatest fear was, and I got those fears. And I didn't actually let them share that stuff with each other because I thought it'd be more fun if they didn't know.
Yeah.
And I, since it's October, I went through one of those Halloween-styled go on this ship that hasn't been heard from for a while and find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And what they discovered was that there is a way creature that is causing people to have to deal with their greatest fears. It's like permeating the ship with trying to deal with their greatest fears. And we stopped after the 4 characters had all dealt with their fear. But it was like creating hallucinogenic isolation situations for the characters.
Yep. Good times.
I mean, it's a very Halloween tropey kind of thing.
It was a bit of a Halloween tropey kind of thing.
Yeah. No, in a good way.
bit more trope.
In a good way.
A bit more trope.
I did have
But they all had a good time with it.
Yes.
That's how lackluster dinner was. I forgot I had the haba mango.
Yes.
The haba mango chicken fingers.
Yes, you did have Haba Mango chicken fingers.
And
They weren't that good.
Nah,
That place wasn't that good.
that place was not that good.
Don't go to
We're not
Paces.
going to.
I'm going to. Don't go to Paces.
Pages.
Pages?
Well, don't go
Pages.
there either.
Don't go to Pages. It wasn't good. And the service wasn't that great either.
Nope.
Maybe that Bloomin' Onion thing would have saved it, but they didn't ever come.
They forgot one of the items.
They forgot one of the items.
Wow,
It was bad.
It was a mess. Alrighty.
Too much char on the Haba Mango, right?
There was a little too much char. I mean, I like when they do that. Like, they flame them a little to caramelize the sauce, but like they just burnt them. Too much char. All right.
I'm eating donuts.
Yeah. So let's move on to announcements. Reminder.
Did Chris get a one thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Never mind.
You did.
I'm all right. I'll be
He's
okay.
eating though, but he can't. Even if he had a reminder, he can't be reminded while
What were
stuffing
we
his
just
face.
talking about?
We were talking about how bad. We were talking about how bad dinner was, but before that, we were talking about Scum and Villainy.
Yes.
Okay. Reminder that the November hiatus is coming up.
It's imminent.
So you will hear this episode. Next week, we will record a very special episode of the Misdirected Mark with Todd Crapper.
Todd Crapper.
Yeah.
Todd Crapper is going to join us on via Hangouts, and we're going to talk about Todd and Jen Adcock's newest project, a Kickstarter that's going to be kicking fairly soon. And that is the last episode until December.
Mm-hmm. By the way, when you hear this, you should go check out Jen and Todd's Kickstarter. It is for a zine, a series of zines, it looks like.
Potentially, if it gets high enough.
Yep. About using a bunch of D&D 5th edition rules that are not what you would typically associate with D&D 5th edition rules. So I'm sure there'll be some like high school drama stuff in there and other amazing, interesting rules that we'll find out more about next time.
Yeah, you're going to find out all about it next week, but there's some interesting things in there for sure. Yeah. So we'll have Todd on, and Todd will be, just Todd's normal, charming self. I get to talk to Todd every week, so this is...
It'll be a cinch for you then.
Piece of cake for me. So anyway, and then we go on hiatus, so we'll be doing some reruns.
Yes. You'll get 4 reruns.
Get 4 reruns while we are running around. Well, kind of running around. I'm running around. You aren't.
No, I'm not. I'm just taking some time to get things better for the FM gamers. Hopefully, if this camera continues to work for the rest of this episode, this will be one of those things that'll make the episodes for the FM gamers better.
There we go.
Yeah.
Any other announcements?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have this nifty, fancy new kind of like layout that we've been using for a couple of weeks now, and we have this pretty camera that we have
Okay.
that we're using currently. In that rotating image on the stream, there is a couple of things missing from it because I can't do video editing and I have to wait for Kevin to finish the edit on it. One of them is like the FM gamers. We stream every other Monday from 7 till 9 p.m. In fact, if you're listening to this next week, Monday, which means it'll be the day after this drops, we're playing 10 Candles on stream, so that should be fun.
Oh, neat.
Right? That's a good visual game.
Yeah.
So come on out from 7 to 9 p.m. on the 28th. Yeah, so 28th. On the 28th of October, and enjoy some 10 Candles. Then also on the opposite Sundays, the Bicons, the BXP Bicons, are playing Blades in the Dark. Their second episode was just Sunday. And so 2 weeks from then, it'll be up. They'll be back streaming on this same channel. So check them out there. Also, if you missed any of the previous episodes, you can go and check it all out on our Twitch, or on our, well, it'll be on Twitch for a while, and then on our YouTube channel. So that's YouTube/MisdirectedMark. YouTube.com/MisdirectedMark. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. You can find it. Just search Misdirected Mark. It pops up, I know, because that's how I get there all the time. All right, there you go. Now we're done. We can move on.
Okie dokie. Go get your passcode and your two-factor authentication.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I got to find it. What's the number again? Can you just whisper it in my ear?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Here we go.
Access granted.
Now we are in the garage. It's not even dusty.
No. We've been in here a lot lately, so it's stayed relatively
Well, I
clean.
set up a Roomba.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you got that Roomba. It's got the 2 plastic brushes on it.
Yep.
Has it threatened to kill you yet?
Only the one time until I knocked it into its place.
I was wondering why it was building a laser cannon to mount on its back, but you know.
Don't give it ideas.
Extra cleaning.
Anyways, we're going to talk about a topic that we've talked about in bits and pieces in other shows, but we're going to extend it into some more detail tonight. We're going to talk about currencies and their economies. This mechanic shows up in a number of games and comes in a number of different forms. So tonight we're going to dive a bit deeper and look at currencies and economies that drive those different kinds of systems. Yep. In order to do that, though, we need to do what we always do, and that's have our definition panda lay down some knowledge and define up some terms for us. So let me hit this thing, because it's around here somewhere. There it is.
Behold! You are in the presence of Definition Panda.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about currency, right? Circulation as a medium of exchange, right? It's a thing. It's a thing we acquire, and we acquire and spend them. And then economy is a system especially of interaction and exchange, right?
Yes.
And the key word here I want to focus on is exchange, right? Trading something for something.
Yes, that's very important.
Right, because that's going to be very much what we're talking about tonight. So a game currency is some kind of object that we interact with, usually acquire, and then exchange it, and that causes it to circulate, right? So we acquire it, and then we exchange it for something, and then we've got an economy going.
That's true.
Currencies can be both character-based or player-based.
So let me get into that a little bit. So character-based means that the characters interact with the currency, and there's text there that didn't quite go the way I thought it would. Whoops. Interact with the currency and is the means for acquiring and spending the currency. The benefits of the expenditure are tangible to the character. So, for instance, gold pieces or other monetary-based systems are character-based systems.
Yeah, that's a character currency, right?
Yes, those are character currencies.
You acquire gold, and you spend gold. We're going to talk about that actually in part of the example.
Can I even say that spell slots are a player-based currency? Because you spend them to cast spells, but you have to acquire them by taking an action to rest.
No, I'm not sure. And the reason I say that is because you don't really, I guess you acquire them through levels, but they're inherently yours until you spend them.
I know, that's what I mean. But the only way to get them back is by resting. So you have to,
Yeah, so this brings up a thing that I was wrestling with the definitions is like the idea of currencies and resources, right? Because spell slots to me seem more like a resource, like it's a thing you inherently have that you can spend.
Okay.
But it's not a thing, like we're going to contrast this and I'll just name one of the things, right? Fate points.
Sure.
Right, a spell slot's not like it. Like fate points and spell slots aren't exactly the same thing, right? Fate points are a thing I acquire, like I get little tokens, and then I spend them out. I almost think like a mana point system for a. So the original Eden what was it? Is it Eden Publishing? Eden Games? Their witchcraft game had a thing where you had to acquire mana and then spend it in order to cast a spell.
Okay.
So that I think is actually a little bit more of a currency because it actually, you actually had to take efforts to acquire it into, like to pull it into you and then spend it out. But I'm going to admit, I don't know if the definition between resource and currency is really that good, which is why I was hesitant to use it.
That's why I was going to ask if, do you think that economies, or at least the currencies and economies, are a subset of resources? The idea behind resources?
Yes, because I think that you do, like, there are some resources that your character just has, right? Like hit points.
Yes.
Because you don't acquire extra hit points outside the fringes of.
Oh, maybe that's the thing. It's about acquiring. You can acquire more than what you have.
That's, I think, a possibility. Like, so if we look at other currencies, right? Like bennies, you start with so many bennies. There are ways to earn bennies, and then you spend bennies. And with inside a single session.
Sure.
Right? But something like hit points is a thing that your character inherently has that you can lose and you can gain them back. But that to me is almost more like just a resource.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, not feeling super confident on this definition.
So maybe the distinction is that in order to acquire them, you have to acquire them from someone.
From some source, yeah.
Yeah, from some source, not just from yourself.
Right. Because that's why I think gold pieces are currency, right? Because you have to go murder.
From someone or from somewhere, not yourself.
Yes.
That makes
not
more sense.
inherent to you. Good. Oh, that's even a better definition. Yeah. And then resource would then be a bigger term, which could be the things that are inherent to you that you are spending.
Well, yeah, because you have a thing that you can spend to get stuff.
Yeah. Because that would make, and we'll talk about this a little further in the episode, but
you have a pool of things that you can rely on to continue moving forward or to get things that you need. Like
right.
Your pool of hit points is a resource because it lets you continue moving forward and not die.
Right. So, for instance, the Numenera experience point is a currency, but the Numenera attribute pools are a resource.
Because they regenerate from you.
Yeah.
Although from outside things can do it too, but
yeah, but in general.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, good. Well, that actually sharpens up the definition a little better. But to go back to what you were saying, currencies can be character-based, and currencies can be player-based. So player-based currencies mean that the player interacts with the currency, and they interact with the currency and the means of acquiring and spending the currency. While the character is the main beneficiary, the results may not be directly tangible to the character. Right. So this is fate points or bennies, right?
Yeah.
Like I have the bennies, not my character.
yes.
I get the benny from the GM for shuffling the deck. I spend the benny for a reroll. The character gets the benefit of that.
Yep. So to get back to this, because we had a bit of a side there are
Yep.
character-based currencies and there are player-based currencies.
Yep. And it's really who is acquiring it and who's spending it.
Sure. Okay.
Cool.
You want to tell me about economies then?
I do, and I realize that this isn't very well color coded.
That's fine. I'll do the part after that.
Cool, thanks. I wrote this thing in the car on the way down to that Taekwondo.
I'm okay
tournament.
with that.
Okay. So then the economy part is then the cycle of how currency is acquired and spent.
Okay.
So an economy could be open, meaning that there's no limit to the currency that can be acquired and spent.
And an economy can also be closed, which means that there's a finite amount of currency that cycles through the system.
Yes. The economy can be unidirectional. So the economy is basically flowing in. Actually, I don't even know if that's true now that we've defined
That is
resource.
true because when you spend a fate point or a benny,
Yeah.
it doesn't go back to the game
Yeah,
master.
it goes
just-
away
it just
and,
goes into
and a
pool.
new one comes in.
Yeah, the one in Genesis is different because that is a flowing economy
Yes,
that goes
thank
back
you.
and forth.
Yep. Okay. So yes, an economy can be unidirectional, meaning that I acquire one and I spend it. I'll acquire a new one and spend it, as opposed to a bidirectional or cyclical. Yeah, where that thing is going around and around.
Which
Yeah.
is more like for the most part, drama system.
Yeah, drama systems.
And Genesis. 'Cause there's only so many of those destiny points. They just flip back and forth.
I knew I was onto something.
You were totally onto something. So this economy will have there will be some way to acquire currencies and there'll be ways to spend the currency.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's not really an economy, right?
Correct.
And each of these things will have a difficulty associated with them. Like some currencies will be pretty easy to spend and acquire, while others may have much more stringent rules.
Or weirdly, sometimes currencies are like easy to spend but hard to acquire. Right? Like you can mix and match them.
You can.
Right? Like those things don't have to, it doesn't have to be one difficulty for the whole economy. It can be at both ends of the equation can have a different difficulty.
It's true. There are even some role-playing games out there which I'm not 100% familiar with, but have very complex economies, like Red Markets.
Yeah.
Red Markets has a very complex sort of
yeah.
economy built inside of the game.
Exactly.
Because it's a game that's about scarcity.
Yep. So of course it has a bunch of it's going to have both character-based and possibly player-based economies.
And they kind of go hand in hand.
Yep. All right, cool. Let's talk about some games. Let's talk about some games that use them. There are lots of games that have currencies. So we'll just take a high-level tour of some of the different types, rather than just naming like every currency that comes to mind.
Sure.
So the first one I was going to do, which I think is pretty obvious because we talked about it a little already, is the D&D gold piece.
Or any game's gold piece.
Or any game's gold piece, right? It's character-based, right? The character acquires and spends it. It's an open system. As much as the character can murder, they can have.
Now that's an old school philosophy on that idea.
I'm sorry. Has fifth edition added some like business rules and some other things?
Yeah, there's this whole book called Acquisitions Incorporated.
Yes, that
has
part
a
of the player's
whole bunch
handbook.
of stuff inside of it.
That's an add-on though. Core D&D, mostly murder.
That's what downtime's for.
I'm sorry. Core D&D will say exploration finds gold pieces, but it's probably murder.
I mean, it's as
not as overtly murder
as much murder as Numenera is.
Yeah, Numenera doesn't actually traffic in cash though. I mean, it has money, but it's not what the big.
That's true.
Cipher is the currency in that game. Cipher is a currency.
Ciphers are a currency.
Yeah, unidirectional currency. Oh, let's do that one afterwards. All right, D&D gold piece, character-based, open system, relatively easy to acquire. One merely needs to go adventuring to get some. It is, and then you would use it to buy stuff. So, and depending on the setting that you're in, what you can buy with it will vary. So at low levels, the acquisition of this currency is really important because going from leather armor to plate armor would be a big deal. If you're playing in Eberron, where magic and artificers are more commonplace, then this money taps into magic items.
Sort of.
Yeah, I'm remembering my 3.5 where it was you could just go and buy the stuff that you needed. Anyway,
I feel like it's my job to make sure that you don't besmirch.
Because what do I know about D&D?
No, it's not true. What do you know about 5th edition D&D?
That's what I'm saying. What do I know about 5th edition D&D? Nothing. Very little. And played like the box set.
Yeah, and then died.
It
wasn't my fault.
It's a hard module.
Dave.
That's right.
Pulled 3 encounters.
Yes. Tell me about the Savage World, Benny. And let's be clear.
Do you want my opinion, or do you want me to talk about it?
First, I want you to break down what it is. But second of all, let's just say that to be clear, this is pre-Swayed.
Yes, pre-Swayed.
Because we have not read Swayed.
I haven't read Swayed. So it's player-based. It's an open system. They flow from the game master to the players, and the game master doesn't. That's not true. Well, the game master can't acquire them for their bad guys, because the bad guys get them. Certain bad guys get them.
I guess start with them.
They also have a number of bennies equal to the number of players, but they can't really acquire more.
Correct.
In
fact, actually, that's
most versions.
Right. In fact, that's actually a very momentous occasion in a Savage Worlds game, is when the GM spends their last penny.
Yeah, because then it's
pile on
the bad guys.
Exactly.
Yeah. And by the rules, they are limited in how they're acquired, by whatever the limit of the game master decides.
Sure. We're gonna have some feelings about that.
You wrote that.
I did.
Yeah. And then they have a limited number of ways that they can be used. It is generally to soak damage, to re-roll dice, not damage dice, unless you have the
unless you have that one edge. Yep. Bloodthirsty.
And there's a bunch of other variants on that in different setting books and whatnot, but that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. The actual spending.
Those are the 2 big ones anyway.
Right. There's a narrative, I think. Isn't there a narrative piece? I don't remember. But Jerry's in the.
He said wild cards get 2 bennies each too. That's accurate.
So the thing is, bennies are very clearly defined as how to spend them. But the challenge has been, and it's been our opinion in the past, that acquisition of bennies is left wildly open
to the game master.
to the game master. And
Here's an interesting thing to throw at you.
Yeah.
For wild cards like NPCs and the game master, bennies are a resource. For players, they are an economy.
yeah, interesting.
That's how it works.
That's super interesting.
Yep.
But you're right.
That's exactly how
Yep.
it works.
But yeah, so and the reason we say this is like having played a lot of Savage Worlds in the past, depending on who was game mastering, and I was once at a table where my starting bennies was 8
That's
because I brought a mini.
Yeah.
I had there were
I actually don't have a problem with this concept, as long as it's
Codified?
Codified, yes.
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with it codified either. Like one of the things I used to do, which was a common Savage Worlds table rule, was to keep combat flowing smoothly. I always had 2 decks of cards because when you pull a Joker, you have to shuffle the deck.
Yep.
So I always had 2 decks of cards. I had one like on deck and the one I was using for initiative. And as soon as I pulled a Joker or at the end of combat, I would collect all the cards, hand it to a player to reshuffle that deck and move the other one into the, up for the next combat. But I would always give the player a Benny.
To me, they fixed that rule because what they did in Suede was that they made it so that anytime a Joker is drawn by a player character, or maybe in general, I can't remember exactly, everybody gets a Benny.
I mean,
Because now it's one of the ways that the economy gets bennies to the players.
yeah. Like
Instead
now
of
it's
just giving some random person the Benny for shuffling cards.
Yeah.
Which drives me crazy.
I know that one drives you crazy. Like, I mean, there were a lot of table chore things that people would get Bennies for. Like and it's a cultural thing, right? Like
Sure.
GMs picked that up from each other, and then they would do that.
I mean, if I knew that those bennies were just flowing out to the players, I would just come at them so much harder. Like, because you can.
Well, and I mean, listen,
They have more resources.
that's the soak damage part is the super important part of that Benny. Like, when you run out of Bennies, and we've talked about this years ago, that the tone of play changes if the players run out of Bennies.
It's true.
Because if players run out of Bennies, everybody gets like real nervous. Because
What's the tagline for Savage Worlds? Fast, Furious,
fun.
Fun? You run out of bennies,
No.
and you are far less fast and far less furious.
You are cautious.
You're like,
and-
whoa, wait a minute, hang on.
Yeah.
I mean, we could spend a whole.
No, we have.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Can you speak to drama system?
I
'Cause
can
could
speak
not.
a little. It's been a while since I've read the game.
I remember
haven't had
bits and
time to,
pieces as well.
Pull it out. So, the drama system is built on the idea of the petitioner and grantor system. The way that it works is the drama system is a very much an interpersonal game. Like you were constantly talking to each other and wanting things from each other.
Yes, that's actually the main activity in the game.
Yeah, because that's where the drama comes from.
Right.
So if I were going to ask Phil's as my character for something like
Alone.
yeah, I would like you to tell me your secret that I am pretty sure I know about concerning the death of our mother.
Right.
I am petitioning you.
Yeah, and so then I have a choice.
Yep.
I have a choice in this to either agree to tell you, or to stonewall you.
And if you stonewall me, you have to give me one of your points.
Yes, and if I agree, you have to give me one of yours.
I'm pretty sure it might be that nothing happens.
No, you have to give me
Okay,
a point.
then I have to give you a
Yeah,
point.
because the whole purpose. So the bottom line of this is, if you have 3 of those points, you can just make something happen in the game, regardless of what
Yes.
people feel like.
Yeah, you can just override them.
Right. So the purpose is that you're supposed to grant a few things to acquire points, so that
so
you
that
can.
you can go and get what you want.
Yeah. And that's we're pretty sure that's a closed economy, right? Like,
I think there's some ways to get more points into the economy, but I just can't remember what they are.
okay, I don't remember enough to be
I don't even know if
confident about it either.
I'd have to go look up the PDF. It's
been
I
a
don't think
lo-
I have the book anymore.
I
I
have
think I
the book
gave it
somewhere.
away at some random thing where we gave away
I
prizes.
kind of almost feel like I want to go back and play that again now.
Me too. It's a really clever game.
I feel like I'm in a much better place to play it
Yeah, me
than when I
too.
first got it. So anyway,
so
yeah,
that's a closed system. Here's another one. Let's do another one.
yeah, do Star Wars because you've actually played. I've only played a couple times.
So this is the Genesis system. It uses the Destiny point. You can actually hear them using this on Skyjacks, the campaign, or campaign from before that. That is the One Shot podcast. It is a point economy where there are some amount of points in a pool, and some of them are on the player side, and some of them are on the Game Master side at the beginning of play. And you can flip those points from one side to the other
Right.
to get either upgrades to your dice, because that's a game that has different kinds of dice.
Yeah,
It's
it
got
does.
symbols and stuff on it. And you could go from a D8 to a D12. Or you can spend them for narrative things. Like to ask for narrative stuff. They are destiny points. And sometimes to activate abilities. There are certain abilities
That you
in the
need a
Star Wars
point.
game, Edge of the Empire and all that, the Force and Destiny, I think especially, where you could flip destiny points to do things.
The way I always picture these things is Othello pieces.
The Othello pieces, I
Yeah.
actually had a set of them for my Star Wars.
So
Yeah.
you have a limited number of them,
There's like between 3 and 7 usually.
and they flow back and forth between one side and the other.
Correct.
as
So
you
when
flip
they are
them.
gone on one side, that means the other person has all of them.
Right. So if a player uses the light side one for Star Wars, they flip it to the dark side. The GM can then use it.
Yeah.
And as soon as they use one, they flip it to the light side.
The
And
other thing I've seen is you have 2 cups, like clear
Yeah.
cups, and then you just take the tokens from one and
Yep.
put them to the other.
there was in the I don't know if this counts as a currency. I don't think it does, but I'll give you a system very similar. Was the Saga system for Marvel? One of the suits was the Doom suit.
Yep.
And when you played the Doom card, you got whatever number you got whatever the points were.
And then-
But the GM got to put the Doom card into their hand
Yep.
and play it later.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if that's exactly a currency, but
I don't know if that's a currency.
yeah, I don't think it's a currency because you don't acquire them; they're fixed in the deck.
Yeah.
Although it's a fixed number,
But it's going back and
you
forth.
acquire them
between
by
the players and the
drawing,
GM.
but you don't actually take action. You just through playing cards, those cards wind up in
Yeah,
your
because
hand.
does the GM ever give those cards back?
They go once the GM plays them, they go into the discard, and then the discard shuffles back in.
Okay.
At
That's
some
sort of
point.
like a currency. That's
So-
actually kind of like a.
I would
Bob's
call
right.
it a currency.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's an economy at least. Mm-hmm. When did that deck get reshuffled?
I think when you spent it. I'm hoping Ange is in the room. Ange just played.
Yeah.
She's looking. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to play those cards.
You
to-
sometimes have to play those cards
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you need the number. Like you need to pass
I
this
just
test.
don't. I just don't know when that resets.
Yeah, I
that
think
would-
it's
That would. By the way, if you have a closed currency like that, because that is a closed.
yeah.
Because there's only so many cards.
How do they keep moving?
Yeah. When do they reset? Then
Yep.
that turns it into a different thing. It's an interesting thought for game design, like how to build those
Oh,
things into your game. 'Cause
abs-
they alter play, right?
absolutely.
Because you're creating choice points.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a bit. The last one I wanted to bring up was the 1%er. So 1%er has the Fux mechanic, the Fux currency. 1%er is the bike gang. It's basically the Sons of Anarchy indie game. So it is a player-based currency. It's an open. Is it an open system?
I don't know. I never played.
No,
it.
it's an
Never
open
read
system.
it.
It's an open system. It's actually more of a. It's an open system, but with a cap. There's a limit to how many you can have at a certain point. You can spend them by giving a fuck. Like I give a fuck about you, I give you a die.
Aw.
Right, and then you can do your thing. I can spend them for myself. Like I'm gonna fucking do this, right? And I'm gonna roll. You lose them when you have shitty dice rolls. Like when you fail and you have ones, you lose some fucks. And if you get damaged in combat, you lose some fucks.
Aw.
And then the way you gain fucks is you do charity runs. So you go do like something good in the community or something, and then you get some fucks back.
Because it's the.
Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So
it's,
you could literally have no fucks to give.
yeah, you're in bad shape if you have no fucks to give. Anyway, so that's 1%er. So cool. Let's take this currency and economy apart and look at the pieces. What makes this thing tick, right?
Well, it's determined to player or character based. That's
Well, you got to define the currency, right?
Yeah.
So you got to define whether it's going to be a player-based or character-based currency, right?
correct.
Okay. And then you got to look at the effects of spending the currency, right? So what is, like normally I think from a design point of view, I think that's the first thing you decide is like, I'm going to have points in my game and you can use points to reroll.
what do they do?
Right. Like exactly. What do they do?
I can't even believe we didn't talk about one
Which one?
as a game system.
Oh, yeah. That has.
How do we not talk about that? It's our own. It's
Do you want to talk about it?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Because some of the stuff is in there. Bonuses.
Yeah.
Gear.
Yep.
Gear. Bonuses. Gear. Narrative stuff.
Yep.
narrative positioning, things like that.
Yep.
To negate something.
Yeah.
And some sort of extra effect.
Yeah, those are all different things that that a currency could be
Yes.
tied to. All right. Then once you know what the currency does, now you need to figure out the economy of it.
Yeah, how do you get those points?
Right. So that's the first part, right? How is it acquired?
Or do you even get those points?
Yeah. So go ahead. What are some questions around how do we acquire currency?
What action is necessary?
Yeah. Do you have to do something in the game?
How easy or difficult is that going to be to get these points?
Yeah, that's gonna have a lot on how many points a character has.
I mean, how much of the currency is acquired at a given time?
Yeah, like can I just get one? Or if I do really well, can I get more than one?
Or do I just like refresh my fate pool, my pool of fate points at the beginning of the session,
Exactly.
or the beginning of whenever?
Yep.
Also, is there a limit to how much can be acquired?
Yeah,
Inspiration.
D&D inspiration.
You get 1.
Right. Your house rule though.
You get 3.
Right. That's
But
it.
You get 1, but if you spend that 1, you can get another one. Then you can spend that 1, then get another one, but you can never get 2, unless you're playing in my game. Then you
Right.
get 3.
Yep.
Then you can't get more than 3.
Yeah. All right, cool. So once we understand how we're getting it, then we need to figure out, we know what spending it does, but we need to figure out some things about how to spend it,
Yes,
right?
like what action is necessary would be the first thing to say.
Yeah, like does it require an in-game thing?
Like, do I need an aspect to invoke?
Right. Do I spend a fate point before or after the roll?
That's really important.
Yeah. Or when do I spend a fate point before a roll? When do I spend it after?
How difficult will it be to spend such currency?
Yeah.
Like, is there any pre-triggered condition that needs to be met?
Yep, absolutely.
I can't think of a game that requires that. Can you? I mean, actually, that's not fair. I just said one. Fate. You require an aspect.
Yes.
I mean, there's aspects everywhere, so it's not that hard, but you still need one.
Yes.
And it needs to be in play. Otherwise, you can't invoke
That's probably
that
the
fate
more
point.
important thing is you have to be able to tie to a
And that's only partially true because you can spend a fate point at any point in time to to create some sort of narrative effect.
yes.
So, but for that one particular reason, that one particular situation, you can't. without
Well,
that.
for instance, you can't spend a penny without making a roll. Like, or no, that's not true. Never mind. Oversimplified. Good.
Yeah. How much is it going to cost? What's it going to cost me to spend this?
Is
this
it a
resource?
one-to-one? Is it a do multiple points? Do multiple points get you different things than single points?
Yeah, like my house rule D&D inspirations. You spend 2 points to because my inspiration's different. You can spend a point to get some sort of narrative boon. That sort of makes sense. That makes sense to your character.
Sure.
You can spend 2 for something that is pretty rare.
Sure.
Like that
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
like that's pretty uncommon to have.
Yeah, like the butcher has a loaded crossbow under like in their cabinet.
Yeah.
Like,
why
maybe
is there a
they-
load, I mean, maybe they do.
Maybe they do because they're getting robbed often or something. But
I'm like, that's pretty unusual. If you
Right.
spend 2, then sure, you can define that.
right. Cool.
Then the last thing is how much currency can be spent at a given time. Oh no, we were just talking.
We
about
did that
Sorry.
one, but how much will it cost? Would might be what does it cost me and other things to spend this currency? Like, do I have to spend a resource? Right. What? Oh, in Forbidden Lands. In Forbidden
I know
Lands,
nothing about this game.
not on the spend side, but on the acquisition side, you gain willpower, which is a currency in the game, but you gain it by when you have pushed yourself and taken damage. So you can't get them unless you have to push first. Like, so pushes, you have to have failed the roll and chosen to push. Then when you push, you have to get ones on some of the dice, and then those become willpower.
That seems.
So you have to exert yourself. Like, you don't get willpower by playing it safe in this game.
That game just makes you push.
It doesn't make you push
encourages
all the time, but it encourages pushing, and then you need it for you need it to spend on certain feats, and mages need it to cast spells.
So you have to get hurt to cast spells.
Yeah. Now there's a corresponding thing where damage is healed relatively quickly if you can rest. So the damage you take from pushing, you can get rid of if you can just get to a point where everything's safe and you can camp.
And that you maintain your willpower, which
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah. Cool. All right, you want to talk about experiences?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
So these economies, they're often things that can draw in players to a game. I know that they draw me into games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's like a sense of accomplishment in earning a resource. Like I always feel pretty good about like, I just made my life a lot harder in Fate. I got a Fate point, yay!
Yeah, or cool. I got a couple extra bennies for a thing. Like now I know when the chips are down. Like I got some oomph to make some stuff happen here.
It's true. It's true. The other thing that economies and points, these points create are tough decisions.
Yeah, which are great, right? Because let's be honest, hard decisions in games are great.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you want people to make choices.
Yes.
If there was always an easy, optimal way to do things, then people would just do that.
Yeah. Talk about one of my favorite ones. We talked about this in the car.
The Numenera experience points.
Yeah, the Numenera experience point has a very tough decision.
Let's be fair. The cipher system experience point.
Sure,
Yes.
but I know
Numenera's a setting cipher
I
system.
came through it from Numenera, but
Yeah.
it's cipher system, yes. So what is it about the XP that's such a tough decision?
Well, you need experience points to advance in that game.
You do. You have to actually spend a number of experience points after the game.
Yeah, then they go away. Like you don't have
They're
them.
gone.
Yeah. Or you could spend a point to make another to reroll a roll.
Right. So there becomes a point in the game when you are close to earning a new advancement that you blow a roll and you have to start to think to yourself, do I want to pass this roll and potentially not get this advancement at the end of the game session? Or can I afford to fail this roll and I will get my cool new thing at the end of the session?
Insert 5-minute conversation about percentages of numbers and when you probably shouldn't re-roll the die roll.
Correct.
We had that conversation. in
Right,
the car,
but
like
it
Phil
does
said.
create. I mean, on the edges. So on the far ends of it, it's either super obvious and you should do it, or it's the odds are super bad and you shouldn't. But in the middle, it creates this wonderfully tough decision about you have to weigh what's going on in the narrative versus what you want to have happen to your character, and the thought of how far are we in the game. Will I have enough time to get more experience points?
You'll always have more time to get experience points because you can
Well,
always
in
just
this
explore
session-
some more.
In this, right, well, that's the thing, right? Like, what if we're in the last half hour of our session?
Will the game master give me another experience?
Yeah, will I come across another experience point, or am I going to have to wait
Yep.
a whole other session before I can get my cool upgrade?
How bad do you want that upgrade?
Well, see that, right? So there's your hard decision, right? That's what makes that experience point so much fun.
How bad do you want that upgrade, Bob?
Pretty freaking bad,
So you'll just take that damage then.
I will.
probably.
I almost always do. In fact, what I usually do in Numenera is I get 4 experience points and then I move them away from my character because I'm like, well, that's an advancement.
Yep, those
and then
aren't
if I
good
get
guys.
some extra ones, I'm like, well, now I have some currency to.
Because I don't need to be greedy. I'll just get my one advantage.
Yeah, I just get my one advancement and then I'll have a couple points for fixing some oopses.
That's fair, I
Yeah.
suppose. I
So,
guess. I'm sure. So
anyway.
that's it, right? That's our take?
Yeah, that is our take on That's our take on currency and economies. We're going to jump over to the chat room, see what they have to say, and then we'll get into some roundtable questions about currencies and economies. But first, one of us at random is going to tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network. Who is it going to be?
Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Shoot.
Uh-oh, we're scissoring.
Bob fisted, so. Want a scissor?
Oh God.
Do you want a scissor? Scissor. We're scissoring.
There we go.
Hey, several gnomes from Gnome Stew get together to talk about gaming topics and themselves in an effort to entertain you and avoid being thrown in the stew. Check out the Gnomecast.
What was the most recent Gnomecast, Bob?
That is a good question.
He didn't check it
quiz.
out.
I did not check it out.
You didn't check it out?
I was not on it, and even
No?
if I was on it, I probably would have forgot because I'm old.
I do know that the person who's been on the most Gnome casts
Yes,
was
turns
Senda.
out Senda.
Other than Ange.
They,
Ange has
they
been on
talked
the most.
about weather.
They did. I know. I was watching to see when Andrew would help you out there.
They
and
talked
post
about the weather.
Ange has actually been
with
on.
JT, by the way.
Right.
Yes.
Ange has actually been on the most Gnome casts.
Well, I mean, if you're the host,
Well,
of the
that
Gnomecast,
counts.
It
Yeah.
does. It does count.
yes. But after that, then Senda.
It's probably even more than me.
I believe I've been
Ange
on
did the numbers.
I think I've only been on like 13 Because I hosted like I think the first 10 maybe.
I think I hit like 10 or something. Like, anyway. All right,
Yeah.
Bob, what do we got?
By the way, Gnomecast is awesome. You should check it out.
Yes, it is. It's awesome. You should check it out.
Also, that lost episode that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You can hear Rob being thrown into a pipe,
Searching for 21.
searching for 21. It's so good.
So we get a bunch of interesting comments and questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to go to the most recent one because this was interesting. Blake Ryan asked, so Blades in the Dark heat and downtime, is that an economy?
So, yeah, heat's a good. So, heat is a negative economy. You acquire it,
Yep,
and,
and
you have to get rid of
you
it.
can get rid of it,
And
yeah.
it's not internal to you. So, so heat is absolutely but it's a negative economy, right? So the acquisition of heat is bad, and the way you get rid of it is also bad. Well, no, you can get rid of it by throwing people under the bus.
Oh, you can also get rid of it by spending. Which game are we talking about?
Well,
Blades in the Dark.
it
Blades
could
in
be
the Dark?
scum and villainy too.
Yeah, I mean you can just spend time laying low,
You can lay low.
which will.
You can get put in
costs-
jail.
You can.
You could just get
That's
put in
true.
jail.
You can be thrown in jail.
That will get rid of some of your heat.
It certainly will.
But yeah, that's a good point because that's not a thing we talked about. All the other currencies we talked about were kind of intrinsically good. Heat is an intrinsically bad currency. Like acquiring it is not good. When you acquire it during a game, you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
not a thing we wanted.
I know.
Oh, no.
It made me quit a Blades in the Dark game.
Yeah.
There's
Heat's-
so much heat.
It's like, why are you doing this? We're going to acquire all of the heat. You don't understand.
And what
That
was
was
the
our
other one?
first foray, so
Yeah,
we
we
learned some things since
We're
then.
a little rocky on that.
Yeah.
What was the other one Blake asked about? Stress?
No, that was.
Oh, he was just asking about heat?
Yeah.
Yeah, heat's a
heat and downtime. but, yeah.
fantastic, fantastic observation, Blake.
Okay, so back to the beginning. Avi the Jackal said, surely a currency doesn't need to be a physical object
Nope.
in an RPG.
Nope, absolutely not. Favors can be a currency.
Favors.
So,
there you go.
So the
I was trying to think of one, and I couldn't think of
so
one that
in
couldn't be.
Vampire, in the original V20 game,
boons.
boons were favors. You traded in favors.
There's also actual debt in the Urban Shadows.
Yep.
Debt was a currency that could
Yeah,
be
it
acquired.
absolutely does not have to be physical, right? It is a currency in the fact that it is a thing by which it can be traded. It does not have to have a physical representation.
The currencies are actually such an ingrained part of role-playing games that we probably don't think about. I can't think of too many games that don't have.
I can't think of games that don't
Yeah.
have currencies of some sort.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is that I think character currencies, of course, don't need to be physical. But I actually think that player-based currencies are sometimes more fun when they are physical. Like getting chips, like getting fate points
Having
is fun.
that tangible element, it adds another layer to that resource. Or
And
that
it's
currency.
actually a thing that you can upgrade in your game, right? Like, so for instance, I have the campaign coin fate points that are like really nice.
Yeah, they're. I mean, who doesn't like Gugas and Doodads?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I have the plastic ones when I go to cons because honestly, it's lighter.
Yeah.
Like it just lightens my bag by
Your
not
fake kit
carrying.
is way much more tiny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Less weight-wise.
right, but I have those metal ones, and they're super satisfying when you clink them sitting
Yep.
at the table. So that
Absolutely.
is definitely a thing.
That is a you thing. That is not a me thing.
No, I'll fucking stack them. It's like poker, right? I'll mess with them.
Yeah, you all like to fidget with stuff though, and I totally get it. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong
I'm
with
very
that.
fidgety.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that love that kind of stuff because they want it. It feels good to have it. It's really satisfying to have
Yep.
them around. It's something to play with. It's something to look at. It
I
gets you
mean,
into the feel of the game.
What I really like is what is it? Savage World Benny is traditionally a poker chip, and that was very thematic from its original roots out of Deadlands, right? The idea of throwing a poker chip into,
Yeah, that was thematically cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it thematic like throwing that poker chip in is like badass. Like oh, I don't think I'm taking that gunshot.
Yep.
Right.
Chink.
Yeah, and then re-roll and then that's also a thing that in the
Also-
Savage Worlds community, people have
That game was fun too because it was if you played it with that alternate Benny rule, you'd pull the Benny out of the poker bag,
Yeah.
out of the bag, and it would the different color chips would do different things.
Yep. I played in a game that was I played in a zombie apocalypse. I played in a zombie apocalypse Savage Worlds game where all the bennies were pistol casings. And they make
And
super
just said that.
Yep.
they make super satisfying sounds like when they land. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the whole thing. There's the aside from that, like the bullet casing things, like the bullet casings in the actual thing for your like counting how many shots you have.
Oh
left.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
But those work great for like bennies too.
Yes.
Right. Like it's all that stuff is a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm petting Podcat.
That's fine.
Podcat.
Podcast is here. Podcat is here.
You can't see him on camera, but Podcat's.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, we'll go one more. Avi asked, Phil, is there a difference in terms of resources between individual GPs, Dungeon World's coin, and World of Darkness resources stat?
I mean, he asked you, not me.
So, all right.
I wasn't even named in the question. I'm just gonna sit here and listen. Phil, tell me about it.
So I think the difference
Hot
is
seat.
the difference is in precision, right? So when you are talking about monetary systems, monetary currencies, you can have very precise monetary currencies and you can have very abstract monetary currencies, right? So a resource stat
Tell me more.
just will abstract most of that problem, right? Like below this number, you can just get that item for free, and if not, you have to make a roll to acquire it, kind of thing, right? That's a very abstract system. Those are harder at times to do. Like D20 Modern had a system like that, but like for the heist game that we played, it was a real pain in the ass to figure out. Like, you rob this bank vault, you get +3 resources. Like, it's not nearly as satisfying as being like, there's $250,000 in this vault. But gold pieces are like super finite. Like they're like, and everything in the game is like super
Granular.
granular,
yeah.
right? I think that the Dungeon World coin economy is actually pretty light, right? There's not a ton of objects.
Nope.
The acquisition of coins is somewhat relevant to the game, but
It actually
ultimately,
is relevant to the carouse move.
sure, the
Yes.
crowds move directly relies on the use of coins, but not much else in the game directly relies on the use of coins other than to purchase equipment to gain narrative positioning.
Yes. I mean, some of the equipment's more useful than that if you can find healing potions.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think that monetary systems, which is definitely a subset of currencies and economies, that monetary systems, depending on the level of specificity, also have a level of rigor that goes with them, right? Like when you don't want a game to be about a thing, you start to abstract it up,
Yes.
right? So if your game acknowledges, yes, there's resources in this modern world, but we're not going to be sitting here figuring out mortgages and loans,
Yeah.
we'll create a stat around that.
Because the game's not about mortgages and loans.
Yep.
Correct. But if your game is old school D&D where you got an experience point for every gold piece you got, then you got super granular. I hope that got pretty close to the answer to that question.
I think it was good. Now I'm thinking of a terrible RPG called Mortgages and Mother-in-Laws.
That is not a good laser and feelings hack.
No, it's not.
I mean, it could be if it's comedic.
Yes.
Might be a good fiasco playset.
Was there anything else from the?
We're good to go.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Let's jump back in, Chris.
Welcome back. We are talking about currencies and economies. We're going to continue our discussion with the following question. Phil, you have number 1.
As GM and players, how do we best leverage currencies and economies in play?
Oh, we do that by making them the things that the players want and getting them to do the things that they don't want to get them.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, you really
Yes.
want this thing, but you're going to have to do X to get it.
Like march into a dungeon and murder a bunch of things?
X gonna get it for you. X gonna get it
I mean,
for you.
No, I'm kidding.
It's more like I'm thinking like, you want your sister to be in trouble so that you can get this fate point, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Fate does that wonderfully, right?
Uh-huh.
Sets that up for us.
I mean, because I feel like if you're going to play Dungeons and Dragons of a certain variety, then you're going to want to march into that dungeon and kill things.
I'm not gonna lie, like I'm running DCC, man. Guess what we're doing?
They're walking into a dungeon and killing things.
We're walking in dungeons,
No,
murdering
really,
things.
they're going to walk into dungeons and get murdered.
Well, for the funnel at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that my advice out of this is like you need to play the currency.
Yeah.
Like if you are a player in a game, you can't do that thing like where in Monopoly, like you're like, fuck it, I'm not buying anything.
Well, it just means you're less effective because usually currencies are probably important to the game that you're
Right.
playing.
But you gotta embrace the currency of the game.
So there's a question. What happens when the GM offers a Benny fate point and the players don't take the bait? Look, couple
You
things.
are allowed to do that.
You are allowed to do that too. If you're a game master, you should never hinge your game on the taking of
Oh, God,
a
no.
compel
Oh,
or,
God, no.
or this kind of
Yeah.
compel type action. That's not their intention. They're not necessarily there to make you go after the plot hook.
Right, but I think the important thing is that when you are a player in a Fate game, so actually there's a piece to this, right? When I used to teach people, Fate, when I was running it at like Day of Fate and things like that, the way that I would explain compels is I'd be like, okay, look, from time to time I'm going to offer you a Fate point and compel one of your aspects to make the situation more complicated. It's never going to negate a success. It's never going to take away a victory or thwart your plan.
Because in the rules of the game, that's actually what they're supposed to. They're not supposed to do.
Correct,
These things. They're supposed to.
but you need to establish, because this is the important part. You need to establish trust with the
Yeah.
player, that you need to trust that when I compel you, I'm not trying to shut you down. I'm trying to make the situation more fun.
Yeah.
And but here's the thing: new players and players who've never played in a collaborative economy.
Well, they're trying to win.
Well, they're afraid.
survive.
They're afraid to take the goal. It's like Snow White, right? Like, here, take this apple, right? Oh, okay, great. Fuck you, says the killer GM. So there's a thing where you have to build up that trust. So, to my point, when you are a player in a Fate game, your job is to take the compel, right? There's a social contract that I'm not going to screw you when I compel you. Therefore, you should take these compels because I want to give you, I need to put currency into the system. And this is the only method I can put Fate points, not invokes, right? Because invokes come from other places, but the only way I can inject more Fate points into the system is to compel you.
Yeah, there's an interesting comment in the chat room by Ange about how if you do that and the players don't play, that might just be because they're not interested in that thing or they're not really wanting to go that way, which
And
she's
that-
absolutely right.
and those are perfect.
It's completely it's actually like a consent thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is absolutely. And if that's the case, where as long as it's not a trust thing, like if you're looking and you're like, nah, I really want to leave my sister out of this episode tonight,
and that's fine.
I'll pay my coin. I'll pay you off, right?
I mean, if a player actually says that to me, I might even be like,
I
all right,
almost-
never mind, just take your coin back.
I have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Or I'll change it up. I'll be like, what would, like, if it's not your sister, like, and I tapping this particular aspect, like maybe it doesn't have sister in the name. What would get you?
Yeah. What are you
Yeah.
interested in?
Yeah, like what would get you to take this coin from me?
But then there's also there's a subset of players that they're not interested in investigating what it means for their character to fail. They just want to succeed.
So
Well, that's not
so
about-
then
Well,
one.
we're talking about the trust thing again, and two, this
Right,
isn't
but-
about failing.
Right.
Like, they're not failing a thing by taking
No, but
these
if something
themselves.
if something goes badly or something like if there's a negative thing for my character, like they're not interested in that.
and if they're not, then I would actually say that they're not a good fit for Fate.
Correct. They're
Yeah.
not a good. They're also not a good fit for any game that has that kind of mechanism in
Yeah,
it.
but Fate.
I mean, that kind of economy
Is dependent on
part
those kind
the
of
game.
things,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be things like you have your trouble aspect is loud and obnoxious,
also-
and you're presenting in front of the queen, and the GM like looks and is like, ho, 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 like picks up the fake point with a big smile on their face and is like, hey, loud and obnoxious,
Yeah.
how's this going wrong?
Now, this is this is an interesting spot where they can actually buy that off and be like, I really don't want to be loud and obnoxious in
Right.
the scene. I'm going to control myself.
Yeah.
But it's going to cost me some willpower.
But that's a conscious
Right.
effort, and
And that might even be more interesting because
No.
you might like you would play that up and be like, okay, Chris is being really quiet.
Yeah.
Right? Like how do the rest of you feel about that?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a character moment, right?
Exactly.
It's not the only time that anything has to, like, Fate's a really good example for this stuff, but you were talking about the never want anything to go wrong, this, that, the other thing, right? And that's what Bob was saying.
yeah,
Right.
Playing any game where you're going into a dungeon is asking for things to go wrong because you're going into a dungeon and things are going to go wrong.
Right, but here's the thing. Here's the difference. There's a thing where there's a mindset that players can accept when things go wrong when dice go bad, because dice are random, theoretically. Dice are random, and things go bad when rolls are made. Right? You step on the pit trap. Roll to save. Oh, you didn't save. It's okay. But there's a part where, and again, this is some really old school mindset shit, right? But there's a school of thought that's uncomfortable with the idea of, hey, I want your character to screw up right now. Like, not randomly. I'm going to pay you to make this happen.
I'm going to pay you to do what your character would normally do.
I'm with you, right? Like,
No, I'm saying you were phrasing it one way, and I'm
Right.
actually phrasing it the way that the game is citing.
And this is why I spend a few minutes at the beginning of teaching Fate to get people comfortable with this idea,
Yeah.
because that is the idea, right? And it's not failure, which was what Bob said, which was perfect, right? It's not failure, because that's everybody's initial thought. It's complication,
Sure, absolutely.
which means you're still going to get to roll. I just may jack up the difficulty a little, or I may make you have to make a second roll, whatever. Like, but there's a trust thing.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a trust thing.
And because that's ingrained into Fate and it's different, in Savage Worlds, if I remember correctly, if you play your hindrance, you can get a Fate point. Jerry can tell me if that's true or not.
That's one of the items on the list that you can insert into games.
Yeah. So if I have coward and I choose not to fight, then I can get a Benny. But I don't. But there's not a compel. I don't think the GM can be like you have coward, you have cowardness. Here's your Benny. I'm making you hide.
There's some commentary out there that people are saying failure is more interesting than success. I actually don't think that consistent failure is more interesting than success.
Not consistent.
But the try-fail cycle
Yes.
is interesting.
Well, failure is a
but
beat.
It's a beat.
Right.
Right.
And spamming one beat is
So
never fun.
Fail, succeed is fun.
Yep.
Fail, succeed, fail, succeed is fun.
Correct.
Fail sucks.
Yes.
There was an epic game of D&D where
Yep.
one night for 4 hours I couldn't roll above a 10.
Yep.
And it was fucking miserable. Now, the only game that has ever successfully made fail mean anything is Dungeon World.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, woohoo, I might have failed all night, but
I
I've
leveled
also
up.
leveled up.
Also, there's that rule of three thing. Like, it works for comedy. It works for adventure storytelling
Oh, yeah.
too. Like, you can do anything. And it works for beats of most pretty much any kind. Like, you do something 3 times in a row, then you better do something different.
Right. There's actually a thing like
And as you go along with those 3 things, you should constantly be raising the stakes for whatever that is over the course of those 3 things.
Yes. So I do whatchamacallit?
Yeah, Senda, succeed is boring. Yes, succeeding 4 times in a row is also boring.
There was a weird thing when we played Dungeon World, when I got my +3 to strength, and on hack and slash, I succeeded more times than not.
Yep.
It wasn't actually it was useful story-wise.
Yep.
It wasn't always interesting.
Yeah.
Because a 10+ is actually 10+ is not the most exciting thing that can happen in the game.
Yeah, I actually had to do some really
Yes.
over the top things to challenge to make it so that we could get different beats in that game.
Yeah. I mean, that's what long-term play in that game looks like, right?
Yeah, which is fine because then you can get a little bit over the top at that point. It feels like epic fantasy. At some
Oh, it
point.
was epic as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so I'm definitely I was going back to our question about leveraging currencies, right? Like embracing the currency is, I think, where we got started on this topic of the idea that you need to play into the currency. You can't resist the currency.
Yeah, I mean, if it's there, you should play into it.
Like if you're playing Savage Worlds and you never spend a Benny except to soak wounds, you're kind of not using the Benny to its full potential.
Yeah. So in player, you're talking about player currency. The gold coin in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is actually a problem because there's nothing to spend money on in that game. It's actually a huge, big problem because the game doesn't assume that there's magic item shops laying around, and there's no rules in the game for just going out and purchasing or spending money and experience to make magic items.
So actually, can we unpack that for a second? Because that's
Sure.
actually really interesting. Because I'm gonna go with when I played 3.5, and I don't know if this was just our GM because Mike was running Ebron, but there were magic shops and you could buy potions, you could buy scrolls, and to some extent the artificers would even do things like move enchantments from one item over to another.
There's not really. I can't think of any books that have rules like that in them.
So the cool part for us for playing in Ebron was that acquisition of treasure had some direct there was some direct good use for having, like, had a few thousand extra gold pieces. Cool, I'm gonna move that frost brand from that halberd we found onto my axe.
Sure.
Like, that was useful. But yeah, you're right. If a currency, so this is the equation, right? If a currency doesn't have something that you can do with it, right? Then what's the purpose of the currency?
I feel like that's one of those things that ended up being a holdover from old versions of D&D.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It was Sacred Cow, whatever you want to call
Well,
it.
like the attribute numbers.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, you get to a certain point in the development cycle, you've changed X number of things. You want to keep from alienating too many of the fans of the previous version, but you want to bring in the new people. So you have to find that balancing act. And they were probably sitting there going, do we have time to come up with something else to, like, you know, is this something that we want to focus on right now?
And
not really.
And this is where Matt Colville, his first book, the Strongholds book, this is where he cashes in, because now if I've got 100,000 gold pieces and now there's a new book that's like, well, you could build a keep.
Yeah.
Like, I now have something to spend my money
Who's
on.
building and managing your keep.
Right. So now the economy takes importance again.
Because it's filling a slot
Yes.
that is from a well-known individual to
Yeah.
sell a bunch of copies of a book, which might actually have already existed out there by somebody else previously, but we just didn't know about it because they're
Well,
not Matt Colville.
I mean, there were tons of books on how to build strongholds.
Yeah, the reality is that Wizards filled that slot themselves by the Acquisitions Incorporated book. There's actually rules in there for how to run your organization.
Yeah.
And like hire and spend money on people and
Yep.
things and whatnot.
And then
that is a Wizards of the Coast official product.
yeah, and that makes things important.
Correct. It makes gold important again.
Yeah, because you have to. A currency has value on what you can spend it on.
And they also reinforce their downtime mechanic with that, which is also has money tied into it.
Right.
So they've done a lot of things to make money relevant again, because that was a big problem with the game.
Credits in Scum and Villainy, coin in Blades in the Dark is a really interesting currency.
They actually have huge importance.
Oh,
yeah, they do.
Absolutely.
They also have an end game importance if you care about the end game.
Yes.
Right? So if you care about the end game, how much you have banked personally determines the epilogue to your character.
I feel like my crew cares about their end game coin because like we've been playing for like 11 sessions.
Yeah.
Right?
But like, have you guys been good? Like, have you been banking money
they
away?
have some
Yeah.
banks.
Yeah, we have
bank
some
coin.
stash, and we now have a vault on our ship so we can hold more.
No, but I'm talking about personal cash.
That's what I mean. They have,
Personal stash.
they all have personal
Okay,
stashes.
personal
and some
stashes,
with
yeah.
coin.
Because that shit's important. But the other thing that currency does is currency lets you buy more actions in downtime. So you get 2 actions in downtime, but currency lets you buy other ones. And downtime is a really important part of that game, because downtime is how all the other things advance.
Yep.
Your
Like,
pet
I got
projects.
6 coins sitting here, and we've got like a metric ton of heat. I'm going to take 2 downtime actions to try and lift some of the. Well, I rolled crappy. We still got a ton of heat. I'm going to take another action.
They're all right. There is a pricing. I forgot.
Yeah.
There is a magic item pricing like guide in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Which,
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that came out a lot later though.
Yeah, but I mean, those things are important. Like, I mean,
they
because
are.
because here's the thing, right? Gold is interesting, but if we're talking about D&D, magic items is where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah, except magic items have a limiter on them. You want to talk about sort of an interesting. I don't know if it's an economy or not, but like
Sure, it's an economy.
you can only attune to so many magic items.
Oh no, that's an economy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because that's as opposed to the old days where it was, I have 10 fucking magic rings and like I've got a quiver of wands.
It also doesn't
and-
assume that you have to have magic items. Like magic items are not like your character needs X magic items.
Let's talk about. Let's go to the next question because I want to talk about 3.5 about because you're dovetailing into something I want to talk about for 3.5. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So our next question was, what are the problems that a currency or economy causes in play? Right. So let me jump into this. I was traditionally for a long time a low magic item GM. Right. I don't like magic items and I didn't shower my players in them or whatever. Until I went to a talk at Gen Con one year where the D&D designers were in the room and they were like, oh yeah, we assume by 5th level, you have this many magic items.
Yep.
We assume
all of our game math is predicated on X, Y, and Z.
all the monsters, all the all the modules, like they assume that by like 10th level, you have a cloak of resistance or something else that's giving you a bonus to at least one of your saving throws. Like, and what I realized, and this is the part with the economy, was I was choking off the magic item economy in that game purposely, right? Because I was writing my own adventures and I just wasn't putting magic items in.
Yep.
And I was doing damage to the flow of the system because I had basically turned off magic items, and then we started fighting mid-level monsters, and it's like, well, fuck, these things are really hard.
Why are we getting our asses kicked?
Right? And
Because you don't have the firepower to deal with them.
right, and the game assumes you have a certain amount of firepower.
Because some things have damage reduction that requires some sort of plus magic item.
Correct. Or this thing throws off a magic effect at this DC, but it assumes that this player has a +1 in their stat and that they've got a cloak of resistance or ring of whatever, and that they've got like about a +3 to make this saving throw.
Yeah, you're saying 3.5, but that's essentially Pathfinder. And everybody's mentioned
It's the same thing.
Pathfinder. Yeah.
It's the same.
They use the same
I
economy.
said 3.5,
Yeah.
Yeah.
3.75.
3.x.
Right. So I think one of the problems with currencies is when a GM arbitrarily messes with a currency out of preference without understanding what the ripple will be, because messing with one side of the equation of a currency affects the other, because the opposite end of that is, I love magic items, I'm giving them all the time,
Yeah.
right? And now you've also messed up the economy because you made acquisition too easy. And if you don't have attunement rules, right? So D&D solves this problem because it's like, well, we may never be able to control the flow in of magic items, but what we can control is how many of them you can use.
And essentially, you can not use that rule if you want to also.
Right. But Cypher's system, or Numenera,
Numenera does it on purpose.
right, Numenera does it on purpose. You can't keep too many ciphers
If you
before
do,
they
there's a
start.
giant negative effect on you.
Right, they start doing weird shit to you. Like, they're telling you, spend these ciphers.
Yep.
Don't hoard them. Right? That's a currency.
Hoarding is...
And it's basically, it's pushing that economy forward. But if you don't enforce that rule, now players start bulking up on ciphers.
Yeah, I don't remember reading about that rule in Xanathar's Guide. I'm sure they're all right. I've read most of those books.
I mean, you got a whole show about that thing.
I do.
But those are, so I think my answer to that is when a GM screws with an economy without fully understanding the ripple effect of the economy.
So, from what I'm reading in the chat room, the cool thing about creating like magic items in D&D, not that we're talking about economies and this kind of stuff, like you can spend your gold. They did the nice thing where like you have to actually go on a quest to get a bunch of stuff together to craft your legendary magic item.
That's your narrative.
On top of the
That's
money.
your fictional.
Yeah.
That's your fictional position.
Which is good, right?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
very good. I mean, unless it's something like scrolls and potions,
Well,
right? Like
sure,
low
but
level shit,
those
just go
things-
make those.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
also just go buy those.
Right, but if you're gonna make like a, if you're gonna make like a Rod of Lordly Might or something,
For instance, we were playing Eberron. Mark's character went and bought a scroll. Like that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, exactly.
Although I said you're in Sharn, they're probably not selling scrolls that have giant magical explosions in them.
No, but like
Because
but-
that's like
getting a featherfall
Correct.
scroll in Sharn should be like stopping at the 7-Eleven.
He went and bought a Nox scroll. I'm like, I should really think about
Oh,
that. Can you buy a
right?
Nox scroll?
Yeah, here, kid.
I
Here,
know, right?
Open this door.
Yep.
No, I mean, you would have to think that that yes, one could probably be bought. No, it probably can't be bought anywhere like legit.
That's the thing I said. I'm like, I bet there's a black market for that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But maybe not just walk into a shop and buy it.
Send your ass to the cogs.
There you go.
Those guys got shops down there. They'll sell anything to you.
Uh-huh.
Weird artifacts.
Yeah,
and-
right?
Yeah.
Because Mark is mad at me because I don't give them a lot of magic stuff. I give them magical things, but not magic items.
Yeah, Mark wants the
Because it's Eberron. There should
Yeah.
be stuff all over the place. I'm like, yeah, there is like sending stones and appliances.
right, but not like extra killy,
Yeah.
extra stabbies.
Network show plug. Hovey the Jekyll says he'd listen to a Down with
I
D&D
saw
on
that.
crafting
We might have
magic
to,
items.
we might have to do one. I might have to start doing some research. We're in the middle of doing Descent into Avernus right now.
Yeah.
And whatever UA comes up, because they've put out like 7 of them in the last like 3 months.
So what other
what's our
problems?
third question?
What other problems?
Oh, problems. You want to talk about problems?
Yeah.
When people hoard their points,
The player who won't spend bennies.
why not spend them?
Right. I mean, it becomes a problem because you're jamming up the economy.
You are jamming. Oh, I mean,
If it's a closed economy, you're totally jamming up the economy.
yes. If it's closed, if it's open, it's not a big deal.
So if you're playing Star Wars, and
When they
and-
all get flipped one way,
and they don't spend them,
I've seen that happen.
they basically deprive the GM of also spending.
You know, yeah, that's what that's every time I've run Star Wars, which means I must be too much of a jerk when I have these points on my side. They get them till they're spent all the one way to the other
And then they
side,
lock you
and
out.
then they lock me out so I can't spend them anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's the deal? Like we don't want to spend them because you're terrible.
Why
Right.
do you hate me so much?
I mean, that's a problem because now what you've done is like you've tampered with the flow of the economy.
Well, they're not using them either.
But still, like the intention of that game, the design conceit of that game is that these points go back and forth,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
But now they don't.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because Jerry says his problem with Star Wars is his players forget to spend them.
I never have that problem.
And it's
'Cause
like-
I have a visual representation of them on
Yeah.
the table, and I am constantly using them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, they're at opportune moments. It doesn't matter what side of the table I'm on. It's just, is anybody else going to spend them? But I can see why that would probably be a thing. Like,
But freezing out an economy is absolutely.
as a game master, you can just prompt like, you want to spend this?
I mean, imagine having like
Spend
a
them.
billion gold pieces in
can
D&D
upgrade
and not having any or not spending them all.
Well, that's the other
What
one.
kind of a person would have a billion currency and not? Well, never mind.
You could solve all the wages in this town, like you monster.
What other problems do you find?
When the currency becomes a distraction, I think. If people get like way too into the currency and not the, like for instance, if all
It's
of,
happened to me before.
right, if
I've
all
done
of
it.
if your players are metagaming, and to some extent, I don't think you can't not metagame this, but there's a thing in Savage Worlds where you don't use all your good stuff until the GM runs out of Benny points, right? Because once the GM runs out of Bennies,
It's a free for all.
it's a free for all against their character, against their NPCs. Before that point, your cool action card or whatever you have may not. Like they could potentially roll their way out of it. But
Yep.
as soon as those bennies are spent. So sometimes you get people who are just like holding out or not doing like adventurous things because they're
Well, you save that one.
meta. I mean, I think if any time the currency becomes a distraction.
Bennies are a meta currency.
Right.
So are fate points, for that matter. I mean, that's the point of a fate point. Is
Yeah,
it's
the
a
good
meta
part.
game.
The good part about the fate point currency is that Invoke supplement it. So even if you don't traffic heavy in getting
can
fate
just
points to
make them
flow,
with creative
you just
advantage.
go make some more invokes. The difference is that a fate point's more versatile because you can put it anywhere.
Yes.
Where an invoke is tied to a
specific aspect.
To an aspect.
Yeah.
I think we talked about hoarding. I think there's problems if it's not clear how things are either acquired or spent.
Oh my God, that's the thing. that
That's
drives
the
me
Savage
crazy.
Worlds thing, right? Like when you have like 50 house rules to acquire bennies, like you've just like you're basically just showering bennies onto players. Like that can be a problem.
It's also just, what is that? What are you doing for the game?
Well, I mean, hopefully what you're doing is you've thought this through and you're like, I want a very high octane game, and I want players to do ridiculous things. But in which case, what I would couple that with is I would have also house ruled the Benny to be like, with a few extra options, like, hey, spend 2 bennies and you can roll at a higher die type. Right?
That's interesting.
Right? Like you could if you're gonna pump more bennies in.
I mean, you just spend a Benny and use whatever edge you want, right?
Something like that. But I would have just
Sorry,
I
that
would have
was-
just gone
That was a slam.
right. I would have just gone with more options. Like my game is all about like this, this action. So here's a whole bunch more starting bennies, but here's a new way of spending bennies. Like 2 benny spends, 3 benny spends.
I don't like the Benny for random stuff.
You Benny for player stuff.
Yeah, I mean the Benny.
Hey, you brought a miniature to the game.
You could do so much better with that mechanism as far as like tying it to the actual theming of the game. That's where I'm at with the Benny. Like the Benny is perfectly fine as a mechanic, I think that they need to get rid of the just give it for whatever they feel like rule for game masters, because it doesn't give players a good idea of what they can do to get them.
Yeah.
Also, it doesn't feed into the play style of whatever the game is.
Yeah.
Like if I'm playing a whatever the horror one is that has madness, the one that was by I forget. There's like a Call of Cthulhu one. I can't remember what it's called.
Realms of Cthulhu.
Realms of Cthulhu. Like I'm not sure. I forget what the Benny rules are for that. But if like you investigate things that seem like a terrible idea, you get a Benny.
Right.
Right?
Well, it's to drag.
Like reward the play experience of
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's to drag you into the correct action for this game.
Yeah.
Like, let's go do some bad. Let's go make some bad decisions.
Yeah.
Here's some points.
It's like that commercial where the kids are running around and instead of getting in the running car and driving away from the scene of the horror, they go hide
Yes.
behind the wall of chainsaws.
Yes. Or like Blake Ryan saying, like, buy the jam of pizza, get a full rest.
There you go.
Oh, Jerry was telling me there's an actual
Make the
setting rule for the thing that I said before about the Benny for the edge. I know there is. I was making a joke about it. My bad. Like I was highlighting how ridiculous of an idea that is.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there. My novice character using legendary edges.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not a good idea.
Just throwing it out there. Just, I mean, do what you want.
I
That's
mean-
fine.
If everybody at the table is fine with it, that's fine. Whatever.
Listen, there's no wrong, bad fun.
Yeah.
No, there's no wrong bad fun.
There's no wrong, bad fun.
no wrong bad fun.
But what are you doing?
What else we want to talk about?
And hit us up with the third question.
Oh, good. As game designers, what are some things we would like to do with currencies?
Yeah, what kind of things would you? I know one of the things that I almost tinkered with, but couldn't quite conceive of it well enough, was scenes and acts driven by currency. So like I don't have a game that this fits, but I was kind of thinking about it for Ditchless, but it didn't fit, which is like you players have this much currency. Different scenes have potentially different costs, and the act is over when you run out of currency to buy scenes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I'm just, like I said, I'm just messing with the idea. But like
Yeah.
a lot of games, either games have like fixed act economies, right? Like Damn the Man, or in the case of Ditchless, which is kind of patterned a little off Damn the Man, like every player gets a spotlight turn, this act ends. But the idea of making it a little more open by saying like, here's your narrative currency. Spend it the way you want. Do you want a conflict? Do you want to look for something? Do you want to have a bonding scene? Do you want to recover? Like, and then pay those out. Again, I don't know what to use. Again, I don't know what to use it for.
You would actually have to rate the value of the different kinds of scenes.
Uh-huh.
And who knows what that actually means.
Yeah.
The other way I've wanted to use that is the 7 days gumshoe hack that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, that would be. See, that's a game that should be made.
I know, I really
Yeah.
want to make that game.
7 days is tell them what 7 days is for those.
7 Days is a really cheesy TV show from the 90s where the government was in possession of a time traveling device that they built, but it could only go backwards up to 7 days. And so there were times where there would be national disasters that would occur, and they would investigate the national disaster, like a biotoxin got loose at a lab and killed like Maryland, right? So they would figure out what happened as best as they could, and then they'd take all the knowledge, give it to this one guy, stuff him in the time capsule, shoot him back some number of days, right? But it has to be within 7 days of the event.
Yep.
And then that guy arrives, gives all the clues, and then you have to go and try to stop it. Which is this perfectly in Gumshoe, this backwards game of we're going to do all the investigation and figure out what actually happened, then take all that knowledge, go back to before it happened, and then
Try
do
and
the
prevent it.
action
Yeah.
to stop it. And most of the time they couldn't send him back with all the knowledge, right? Like
You only had a limited amount of time
You
to
only-
do the investigation.
exactly.
Because the farther it takes, the closer you get to the 7
Right,
days,
because
and
if
you're screwed.
because if the break-in that didn't occur, if the break-in occurred 4 days before the outbreak, they had to send them before the break-in. Like anyway, it's this cheesy show, but I so want to make that game.
So
I
there was
would
a
play that.
question in the chat room about games with economies that go between the characters, and Bridget just walked in.
Hi,
That's the noise
Bridget.
that you heard. Hi, Bridget. So games with economies, with point economies that
Between players.
between players.
Yeah.
Drama system is one of them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons inspiration can be given to other players.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
neat.
That's one. There are certain settings that have bennies that are for giving to the other players at the table. So that's another one. There's a lot of them actually.
What is it? XP. When you get XP in,
In Numenera,
You
can
give an XP.
to
Yep.
another person.
yeah,
Those are all currencies.
that's a weird social thing.
Those are all currencies that get.
Avi the Jackal said,
to each other.
7th Sea lets you spend your hero
Yep.
points to help allies.
Yeah,
That's like
another
the
one like that.
inspiration.
Yeah. So there's a bunch that can. There's a fair amount of games that have that idea in it. Games. What are we talking about? Things we like to do with currencies. I like currencies that are universal, so like they can do a lot of different things. So like I designed a game that did that. That's what one does. Like sequences create points which can be spent, and then they can go into this pool.
Yeah, that's actually most of my design for most of my design work on Ditch Lilies was figuring out what to do with those.
Yeah. So those points are they can. The points that are in the pool can do a bunch of things too. Like
Yep.
you can pull them out to add to your die pool. You can spend them to use as a narrative bump.
Yep.
To like create things in the setting and in the system.
I added one that you can ask a question.
Yeah, that's so for me, investigation is about. So here's the thing about currencies and economies. Like if we're going to talk about on the small scale, like you roll some dice, then you have a pool of points to spend on a thing.
Yep.
That's you're generating points. That's kind of like a mini economy.
Yep. It's points.
Genesis has it because the advantage disadvantage thing with the advantage points and the disadvantage points, they can be spent to do things narratively and mechanically. What other game does that? There's other games that do that I can't think of. I mean, one does it too.
Can I tell you a thing I did in one?
Sure.
So I limited what you call it. So I have a finite number of ways you can spend points from the band pool. That's what it's called in the game, right? The
Yeah.
band pool. But I also put a narrative constraint on it. You have to be acting in a certain set of emotions in order to use it,
Yeah, that's fair.
right? Because this game's about love. Like this game's about using queer love to change things. So you can't use those points for something spiteful. You can do things that are spiteful in the game. You just can't draw from the band pool to do it.
The group pool. That's the other. That's the
That's
common,
the generic term,
generic
right? Yeah.
term. If you wanted to help somebody on a roll,
Yep.
like you could pull a die out of that pool, but you had to describe how you were helping in order to do that, and that would be one way to add a die to somebody's dice pool. But then you were subjected to whatever penalties or problems that occurred from that.
Yep.
That was one way. Like those are my like those are the things that I like from economies.
I did a thing where the GM could. So there are naturally problems that occur, like, hey, you're outside and it's really cold. Roll this thing at one less die, right? Because that's just an environmental thing. But I also put in that the GM can knock a die out of the player's pool by spending one of theirs, and you put your die. The GM puts it from the trouble pool into the player's, like in the band pool, and is like, oh, your PA's on the fritz. like you're getting a point. You get a point for.
Yeah, it's a point for complication.
Yeah. But it doesn't. You don't have to wait for the
fact-
narrative. It's an intrusion.
Yeah, the fact that you have because you have your own pool of points in that game, right?
You do.
Yeah. See, like the generic one doesn't have a trouble pool,
I wanted
which
a,
is fine. I like that idea. It's a great idea.
I wanted a currency that the GM could spend to make things complicated, because I don't always like one. I don't always want to have to wait for something to go wrong, and two, I want the GM at times to be able to push the game. And like if the players are on a roll and racking up successes, I still want the GM to be able to introduce a problem. Right? Like, because sometimes that happens in Powered by the Apocalypse. If you get a game where everybody starts rolling 10s, the GM gets kind of like
You have a trouble pool as
yeah.
a game master in generic one. You
Yeah.
can just do it.
Oh,
Like it's just a rule. Like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna have a die in your pool. I'm gonna complicate your situation.
Yeah. So since I think I came up with a couple of different things. There's like 4 or 5 things a Game Master can do spending out of the trouble pool. And they're all like to make things worse. Like,
Yeah.
like I can initiate a conflict.
Yeah.
Like you have actually restricted the game master rule in that game.
Confined. Yeah, I codified it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By that pool of points.
Yep.
Which is cool. I think that's neat.
It's a fun. I mean, I think what was really fun about designing for one was you had this really cool skeleton, and then there was really this whole effort of like, okay, what does this? What do I pack onto the skeleton that makes this ditch lily, and not another one game? Because we played like 3 or 4 different one games.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do I like what can I do a little differently here? What can I do a little
We've
differently
had
there?
some rough magic systems. We've had some,
Wuxia.
yeah, I mean, some culturally insensitive wuxia.
Asian Slaw, I think, is what Eric Farmer.
Yeah.
In fact, not Eric Farmer, Eric Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, actually, I think we stopped playing that game. We read Eric Simon's article, and
We're
we were
like,
like,
we're going to stop
we're
playing
like,
this game.
whoa, let's just go play a 40s pulp game.
Yeah.
Like-
Which is what we did after that.
That's true. We totally. He wrote that article. We read it, and then we were like, okay.
I still like that stuff.
No, I like that stuff. I just wish I I wish I understood in a way that wasn't an amalgamation of Shaw Brother films. That's my problem. Is like everything I know about wuxia setting is like
I
just.
don't think I should necessarily feel bad about playing my my Shaw Brothers wuxia game in my house with my friends.
No, it was
talking
fine,
about it.
and nothing about it was
Malicious.
malicious at all. Just it was absolutely
It was totally ignorant.
Well,
Like,
it was-
it was too many Asian
themes all
meshed together.
Mashed
yeah.
together. That I mean, it was that thing, right? It wasn't malicious, and we weren't playing it, and we weren't publishing it. We were just
Next time I will actually do my research before we start.
yeah. It was actually
all sorts of stuff about.
it was
Chinese
actually a
stuff.
really good article because it was the kind of thing that when I read it, I was like,
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
like yes, I have done this, and now I understand why I should do a little more homework.
And my point is to get back to the subject.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have a game like that, make sure that you start rewarding people with the economy for doing the things that are within that setting and style.
Yes. Yeah, I often ask myself if, like, one of those things I like from a design perspective is to come up with that elevator pitch so that I can use it to test everything else in the game. Like, is this game really about this? Or is this rule really supporting this elevator pitch? Did I tell you I made the Fated Kiss rule for Ditch Lilies?
You mentioned it.
Yeah. So...
So are we done talking about?
I feel like we are. We can start to
Yeah.
wrap up.
So we talked about-
any final things from the chat room?
Yeah, actually, Avi the Jekyll said, is there an important difference between group resources and individual PC resources?
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, cool. Let's take a moment.
Yeah, I mean, in the chat room, I said that group resources encourage teamwork.
Uh-huh.
And he questioned me, he said, do they really?
I don't think they. I think what they encourage is group. I don't want to use the word ridicule. Scrutiny. So like if you
Group scrutiny is correct.
yeah. So it depends on how the team pool is made, right?
Let's talk about. Are we talking about a group, a currency, and economy?
Yeah. So let's
Because it was you said group resources, right?
yeah. But if we're talking about group currency, probably the most important part of a group currency is who can spend it and on whom, right? Because if you can spend the points from the pool on yourself and you're just like, fuck it, I'm taking 4 points out of this pool to do whatever I feel like.
Yeah,
the group is all going to be like no one consulted us.
Yeah, I think when you have something like that, and I'm pretty sure I have a rule that's set up for that, it's when you do that, you have to ask everybody else and get everybody else's consent to spend a point from the group pool.
The other times that I've seen that work is where you are not allowed to spend it on yourself. So what is it? The team pool in Masks. The team pool in Masks is great because it has 2 parts.
Yep.
You can freely spend it on a teammate. Chris, I believe in you. Here's a point. Go forward and kick some ass. But if you selfishly spend it, you actually have to say something bad about the team.
I remember that.
And then go do it. Like, it's great. But I think I'm with Avi. I don't know if it necessarily creates teamwork. because it will make people like, why are you spending it?
If it's not a selfish resource, like if it's a team pool, but you can just take it on your own.
Yeah.
All right. If it's not that, if you can spend it for someone else,
Yes.
then I think it doesn't.
Yes.
I'm using the word encourages purposefully.
Yep.
It encourages that because then you can help someone else out.
Yeah. In fact,
You don't have to. You're not
Right.
being forced to, but
Well, you have this pool of points. The only way to utilize them is to spend them on somebody else in your team so that they can succeed at something.
Yeah.
That is encouraging.
that's teamwork.
it's encouraging teamwork.
Yeah, so really I think the crux of the team pool is who you get to spend them on.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Because I think if you're allowed to spend them on yourself, it's very troublesome.
And the effect for spending them.
Yes.
or like Love and Justice, you can spend a friendship die for someone else.
Yep,
Give
there
it
you go.
to someone else.
In fact, you need to in Love and
Or
Justice.
you can't finish the game.
Right, like you need to.
Right? That's how that works.
Well, because you need the super. Well, you don't
been a
necessarily need the
while.
superpower. Yeah, you do. You need it to. Oh, I know what it is. It's been a while because I'm
been a
remembering.
long time.
I'm remembering 4 different versions of this game. You need to unlock those dice. Otherwise, they go to the GM side.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can finish the game. That was actually part of the thing. Was there were versions where you couldn't finish the game,
It's just that you might not succeed if you don't unlock them, right?
correct. Like you're
Yeah,
encouraged
you could-
to go spend
you
those
could
friendship
actually
dice.
lose the episode.
Yeah.
Which is why that would be a fun campaign game.
Yeah.
The power of friendship compels you.
So yeah, oh good
power of
boy.
friendship.
I gotta say, between Blake and Avi. So first of all,
But the
the Australians are delivering
Represent.
some. They're representing some serious content tonight.
They're on tonight.
But both of those questions really did a really nice job opening that up. And actually,
so
your
are our MP brethren, the Queen and Angela, have been all over it too.
your thing about
And,
resources was also really good. You helped kind of fix
Yeah.
the one part I couldn't wrap my head around.
Also, O'Brien, John,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah, there's some good.
We have good
Chat
people in our
room's been
chat
hot
room.
tonight.
Chat room's been really hot tonight.
All right. Well, that's why you should join the chat room.
So
Tuesday evenings
if you
from 8 to
can,
10 p.m.
if you can, we would love to have you here.
We're gonna be off for a month, so
So
come
hot.
next week.
If you can in December.
December.
Hey, listen, if you
New Year's Eve
I'm just gonna
extravaganza.
if you are off, like from work or whatever for the holidays, you happen to be free on a Tuesday and not doing anything, like
be
come
here.
listen to us. We'll be here. We're gonna be recording all through the holidays.
All through the holidays.
The holidays are on what you call it, Wednesdays or Thursdays anyway.
Oh,
so
good.
Happy
Otherwise, we're changing the
holidays.
recording day.
Oh, I gotta check. We should check
We
that.
should check that. We'll
Happy
figure it out.
holidays.
And the merry bells keep ringing.
All right. Well, that's our coverage on currencies and economies. I
Yes.
hope you enjoyed that. We're gonna wrap up with one last. Well, we already did that.
No,
one
we're-
last
we
trip
already
to the
did
chat
that.
room.
Sorry.
We're gonna go on over to the conversation.
We're
corner.
screwed on. We're screwed on Christmas Eve. We're great for New Year's
Yes,
Eve.
we are. We'll figure out something.
Yeah,
for
we'll
that.
figure that out.
We might record on that Monday,
Yeah.
unless I'm busy. I might be recording with the other show.
Or pandas or something.
Something. Yeah. Here we go. We're gonna go do this thing.
I didn't fix that part of
Oh
the
my
thing.
lord. We are.
We're good. Just
We ran super long.
We did. So we could all do one more thing.
Yeah. One more thing.
One more thing.
What's your one more thing, Phil?
My one more thing is we keep playing Forbidden Lands. We started the exploration of the keep, and it's good. Like I still like this game. It's still fun. We
It's scratching an itch. It's enjoyable. Like I said, Tales from the Loop, the dice mechanic does not thrill me.
yes.
Okay, but the flip side in Forbidden Lands, it's essentially the same dice mechanic, really, but for some reason, it's more friendly to me.
Yeah. Blake's asking me, how does it compare to Dungeon World and D&D? So D&D, I'm going to be terrible on. So how does it compare to Dungeon World? It's a bit more traditional because it's far less narrative. It's far less, it's more GM-centric for narrative control. But it has a pretty simple rule set. Like once you understand the core dice mechanic, that's pretty much the whole game. And what it really excels at is exploration. Like overland exploration is really cool in that game.
Yeah.
I don't know why, it just is. Like, it's just a lot of fun. And yeah, I don't know. It's playing like it plays really well. Like I don't know. It's if you've played a bunch of fantasy stuff and you're burnt out on the stuff you've been playing and you want to try something else fantasy, I would highly recommend Forbidden Lands.
We aren't recording on Christmas Eve. And we're not recording the day before either because I'm busy.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll figure something out.
We're just going to record an extra long episode for New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that's fine. We can't record on Christmas Eve. That's
we're
not.
not
Jerry's
doing
like, it'll be tough. It's not going to be tough.
We're
It's
not
fucking
doing
impossible.
It. Yeah, we're not doing it.
I have 2 kids. It's not
I also have a kid.
Yeah, that is not an option. Plus,
there
my
will be no
parents are in town. Hey guys, I got a split.
But we'll just do an extra long New Year's Eve extravaganza. We'll start at like 9 o'clock and go till like midnight.
Something like that. Oh yeah. We'll totally do that for New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
We'll go to like 12:30.
Yep. Bob, tell me a thing.
A thing.
Bills won.
Yeah, and the Sabres just won tonight in overtime.
Wow, they won?
Yep.
They were down 2-0.
Yeah, and then they came back and they took a 3-2 lead.
Yeah. Then they gave
and then
up
it
a
got
goal.
tied up
Yeah.
and they went in OT.
Sweet.
Come on.
Captain Jack on the backhand in OT.
Very nice. Very nice.
Off
Way
a
to-
Risto bomb.
I know nobody cares. I care.
No,
We
no.
care.
Bob cares.
Look, this is a weird time.
They're
for,
8-1-1. They're 8-1-1. They're the best team in the NHL.
And the Bills are 5-1. It's like, what is even going on here in
by
Buffalo?
points. By points. They're the best team in the NHL.
We all hung out on Sunday and watched the Bills game.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Good times.
That was a up and down game. As in the first half was
As in
like,
down.
what the fuck is going on here? And then the second half, like, oh no, never mind, it's falling back into place. Jerry was here.
Yep.
There were some fun plays in that
Yeah.
Bills game.
Oh, yeah, the pass to Duke Williams was great. That
Yeah.
little 28-yard throw that
The-
Josh just floated it right.
The part
Josh
where
Allen
everybody
floated right in
mocked
there.
me for leaving Aaron Rodgers on my bench, who scored 43
I still
fantasy
lost
points.
that game by 2 points.
I can't believe.
I can't believe I lost.
You not only lost it by 2 points, you lost it and you had the Patriots defense.
I know that scored 25.
Yeah.
27, I think, actually. No, 25. It was 25.
The the onside kick.
Oh, that was fun.
That onside kick was a blast.
It was a good time.
Did you
Yeah.
see the video somebody posted on the internet of that onside kick catch with 8-bit music, like Mario music?
What the do.
Yeah, it's hysterical.
Did it
Is that
speed
might
up
be
when he
Zelda.
catches
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
There was like a ding and then a yeah.
That's funny.
But it was actually fun to hang out. Like I
Yeah.
was pretty shell shocked. I had gone to a Taekwondo tournament. I was kind of
Uvi the Jackal is correct. This is the alternate timeline. The Bills and the Sabres are both playing well at the same exact time.
it's really weird.
When they both have, out of 16 games, they both have 3 losses between them. One of them being an overtime loss. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, we actually
the world's confusing.
We actually here in Buffalo don't understand. Like we're all enjoying it while it lasts.
Yeah, we're not looking a gift horse in the mouth.
That's
We're
right.
like, yeah, enjoy it while we got it.
It's shocking. It is shocking.
right. We're just woohoo.
I feel
mean-
shocked.
And odd. I'm looking forward to next week when they play Philadelphia and
Oh, yeah.
hopefully beat them into the ground because Philly has been having all kinds of problems. Their
Oh
secondary is
man,
in a
I
shambles.
can't tell you. There's nothing be
We-
more satisfying to me than watching Philly get pounded by anybody.
They got crushed by the Cowboys last week. We're almost done talking about sports, everybody.
We talk about more
This
role
is the
playing stuff.
5 minutes of sports that we get to talk that I get to talk about in my nerd circles every week. I think did Ange win last week? Did Ange get beat too? Because was that your first one or your second win of the year, Bob?
That was my second one of the year.
So you're only a game behind me.
Yeah,
Man, I know the Chief got smoked by somebody.
yeah.
Was he playing Taylor?
Yeah, actually, Taylor's
So-
team actually had a
Taylor
good outage.
Taylor LeBreche is in our fantasy football league, and Taylor LeBreche drafted every Minnesota Viking on the face of the planet.
That's a,
Which, you know,
that's a
if
bold
you're a
strategy.
Minnesota homer, that's, you know,
a bold
it's a bold
strategy,
strategy.
Bold strategy. Cotton.
That's the first game that I won this year because Minnesota did terrible
Yeah.
the day that he played me, and he scored 50 points.
The last 3 weeks, Minnesota's been playing out of their mind. All of a sudden, Kirk Cousins out of their mind. Maybe that's not good. Been quite good. They've been very, very good beyond recognition. Their quarterback, Kirk Cousins, has decided to be a quarterback, which is unusual because he's been pretty bad up to this point, except for these last 3 weeks.
Yeah, this year he started out a little rough.
Yeah, although Adam Thielen got hurt on
Yes,
his
he
touchdown
did.
reception, but Stephon Diggs is still there, and they're not going to trade him. So
Nope.
Okay, we're done talking about football.
Yes.
Let's move on. I'm good. I'm happy. I didn't get
know.
to talk about my one thing because he brought up sports.
Yeah.
I didn't.
That's fair.
I started playing the Shadowrun video game again.
Oh yeah.
I picked up Dragonfall, which
Okay.
is based out of what is like New Germany.
Yeah. New Berlin or whatever.
New Berlin, yeah. It's really good so far. Like the first run is a disaster, and then there's the mystery that goes on beyond that. I've played it for about 3 hours. There's the mythology of that there was a dragon. Usually dragons are generally quiet, but the mythology of this particular game is that one of these dragons decided to go on a rampage.
Ooh,
Killed like 10,000.
Which dragon is it?
Fire Drake or something like that. I don't know.
okay.
Whatever they call it. It was a fire breath dragon thing.
Okay.
But instead of being quiet about things, it went on a rampage, destroyed a whole bunch of things, killed 10,000 people before the German the Germans put it down. But a lot of people don't remember it. It's kind of a footnote because it was after that that the elves and the dwarves showed up, and then after that later the orcs and the trolls showed up. So like it was like a big deal at first, and then all this other stuff happened, so it kind of just faded into history. But it seems to be the premise of what's going on here is I'm pretty sure this dragon is coming back.
Oh yeah.
It didn't actually die because it fell out of the sky when they killed it, but I don't think it's dead.
That's good. I like that.
So that'll be interesting.
Did they see a body?
It was like 50 years. It was like 42
if you didn't
years
see
earlier.
a body,
It didn't. Yeah, I'm chugging away at Minecraft while in my solo instance. I'm definitely now mid game. Like I do not have to go and collect resources nearly as much as I create stuff. I did have to build a new spawn chamber.
Yep.
My current one is leaky. Things sometimes spawn outside of the murder box,
yes.
which is fine until I was going to start spawning creepers.
That could be messy.
That could be messy. So I just built a whole new one last night. I got to finish testing it tonight when I get home. But I'm going to go on for a little bit, play and give it a little test run. Make sure it's working. Talked about running DCC. That's exciting shit.
Yeah.
I get to play with all my... I know people want me to play Factorio. I know I want to play Factorio. I got to stop playing Minecraft in order to play Factorio.
If Phil buys Factorio, we're going to make Phil stream him playing Factorio and
Right.
talking about it constantly.
Yeah.
We're not going to make him. We're going to ask him politely
No,
to please stream
I'd definitely
Factorio.
be
As it is,
interested.
we may be streaming some Minecraft.
Yeah?
I want to stream Minecraft. Like we need to figure out how to... we'll talk to Schmitty after Schmitty gets the server up.
If we
but
can find a night of the week that everybody wants to play video games,
Yeah.
we can figure out like a stream rotation so that there's Minecraft some nights, so that I'm playing video games some other nights. Because
Yeah.
I actually have this idea for like a streaming show where I am playing games that are at least a year or older.
There you go. I would love to do Minecraft.
Talking about the design of how I see them.
I've been watching a lot of Minecraft. I've been watching this one Minecraft YouTuber, 47 Mark 7, and I started really paying attention with a production eye about how he does his show, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like I could play live, like let people watch me play, but like I'm watching, he like very carefully has like, this episode he's going to do these things, and he preps all the material and has it like in a chest ready to go.
I mean, that's a
and
lot of this.
it's a lot of prep work. Like
in studying up on the video game streamers, it's about really like you need to be entertaining.
Yes.
You need to talk the entire time.
the entire time.
Yep. You have to be on point.
And he's editing because he's not live streaming it. So he's packaging these for YouTube. So sometimes when something goes wrong, he'll be like, oh, hang on for a second. It'll cut and then it'll come back and he'll be like, all right, I ran back home and picked up like a few extra upgrade kits or something.
Well, the live streamers don't do that.
No. The live streamers, like I could live stream my game.
Yeah.
Because
that's just you have to be on. You have to be like
Yes.
try to be entertaining for like an hour or for however long you're going to stream.
Exactly. But like these ones that 47 Mark 7 does, like these are like really nicely packaged
he's
and produced.
recording these.
Yeah. And he's editing.
He's actually probably just recording with OBS or some XSplit or whatever.
Exactly. But like he's doing this really nice job of he must be doing post production and editing them down. And
We should probably move on.
Yeah.
We could talk about this in the after show.
no, it's fine. I just want to go and like I like need to meet this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. What's his name again?
47 Mark 7.
Cool.
47 Mark 4. Sorry,
All right.
47 Mark 4.
Well, that's our show for the evening.
Yep.
All right,
Let's do it.
Let's get some Patreon shoutouts because we really love all you patrons out there.
Yes,
we love everybody
patrons.
who's listening to the show, but especially you patrons. Thank you so much for giving us money. Thank you, Drew Smith, Jeff Stevens, MT Black. Thank you, The Closet Gamer, Troy Pitchelman, Joe Razzo, Robert Day, Robert Dorgan, David Walker, Chris Foster, Best Chris, right?
Best Chris.
Best Chris, Troy E. Taylor, our fellow gnome, Thomas Hook, Tim Okoye. I really love saying that name because it reminds me of Christian Okoye.
Yes.
Yeah, right? Every
yeah.
time. If you don't know who Christian Okoye is,
Go play Super Tecmo Bowl.
Go
I
play
mean,
Super Tecmo Bowl, or look up any highlights of Christian Okoye.
Yes.
They
But
called him the Nigerian Nightmare.
But in Super Tecmo Bowl, he was like the
Running people
juggernaut.
over. It wasn't fair because Barry Ward was his backup, but he also ran people over.
I moved Christian Okoye on my Super Tecmo Bowl team
Yeah.
to punt return.
That's cheating.
Jason Pitt.
Yep.
One of our
love
favorites.
Jason
Donahue
Pitt.
McCarthy, Nate Brooms, thank you so much. John, Jean Lorbert, the Space Rhino, Ryan Bolter, Matthew Pezzarelli, and Dan Simons. Is there one more on there? Nope, that's all of them.
Sweet.
You are amazing patrons. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for listening tonight.
If you are free Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time, come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with other listeners in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
You know, if you can't make it to the live show, you should check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts. Also, take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Network, such as Down with D&D, Bones and Obsidian, Pandas Talking Games, The Gnomecast, Zhang Yu Hustle, She's a Super Geek, and The Bonus Experience. You can also catch the FM Gamers on
Yes.
on podcast version, or go to our YouTube channel to listen to all of those things and the Bicons, the BXP Bicons. You should also check out our sibling podcasts, the Tabletop Bellhop, the Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming MBS.
After you have accumulated your points and before you spend them, send us some feedback. You can reach us directly via email at mmp@misdirectedmark.com. Hit us up on Twitter. The show in the network is at Misdirected Mark. He's Robert M. Everson. I'm DNA Phil. And this is the Light 101. Or go to our awesome forums.
Yes.
Go right to the Misdirected Mark Show forum and put your comments right in there.
Yes. If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the
Misdirected Mark
Word
Scramble.
Bam. In the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Down with D&D, and Pandas Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. She's a Super Geek is at patreon.com/SassGeek. Zhang Yu Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhang Yu Hustle. And last but certainly not least, Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Down with D&D, and Pandas Talking Games get access to the after show, the pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Pandas Talking Games bonus outtakes, and other special releases.
Well, this has been another rousing episode of the Misdirected Mark podcast, a production of Misdirected Mark Productions, which is also the media arm of Encoded Designs. Where's that media arm? Do you have a media arm?
Right here.
Is that the bionic one?
No, the bionic one's this one.
Well, the other one's the media one.
Yeah. This is the bionic arm, the media arm.
Nice, nice. Mic drop.
We out!